Chapter 1573, Create a Miracle. Chapter 1573, Create a Miracle, _. Time and space seemed to have paused at this moment. An entire space in amber color was frozen and silenced. Tens of thousands of experts of the four clans were fixed. Their souls and body were nailed. It seemed like there was no power in this world that could rescue them. The terrifying race war that should be so furious stopped strangely. The confrontation between the 10 great territory ancestors ceased quietly. At this moment, everyone gazed at that area, Shi Yan and Montesi. A fierce fear-filled dragon lizard and the others' hearts, expanding to their bodies. They felt lucky that they had escaped one step earlier. So many living warriors were like dragons or tigers a moment ago. Just in seconds, they became like fossils. That area was like Earth and Heaven prison that had locked everything, including creatures, bones, pieces of flesh, and fragments, and put them into eternal silence. They were all frozen and couldn't move even a bit. Including Beverly at second sky of Territory Ancestor Realm. What happened? How could it be? Looking at tens of thousands of frozen warriors, Hero was bewildered. He sensed and changed his face in fear. It's a powerful sealing technique. My soul consciousness couldn't seep into it. Gosh, time and space have cast an eternal seal. The power at that level isn't something that we can understand. Dracula's eyes were glistening. His white bone body wiggled and crackled as if he wanted to do that to prove he was still able to move. Tian Xie and the experts of the God Clan, Judy and Han Tian of the mysterious Sky Clan, were bewildered and skeptical. They knew that they are lucky. When Shi Yan's soul consciousness came, they could feel his tense and uneasy feeling. They decided to trust him and ask their fellows to leave at the fastest speed. They didn't mind if their bodies got hurt. What happened had proven their decision and their belief in Shi Yan. Most warriors of the mysterious Sky Clan, White Bone Clan, and Tian Xie's team had escaped. However, several thousand hesitant warriors were frozen together with the Devouring Clan. Briefly, they had to bear a small loss that they could accept. Serene Prison, Rupert, and Edgar couldn't accept this. Many experts in their forces were sealed. How could they continue this war? They couldn't believe their eyes when they saw Beverly there. At second sky of Territory Ancestor Realm, she couldn't escape. How could that happen? After dozens of seconds of silence, Edgar and Serene Prison showed resolute faces. Leaving Han Tian and the others, they headed towards that sealed space. Break! Edgar condensed his blood to create a massive bloody sword that carried his desperate and destructive will. That blood sword was 10,000 meters long, like a silver river, slashing on that area. Boom! The blood sword that could have an entire planet gashed that amber area and clashed like a loud explosion. The bloody sword broke into pieces. Lights in Edgar's eyes dimmed. He couldn't help but spurt blood. However, he restrained himself and tried not to vomit blood. Serene Prison's face changed fast. Deep fear occupied his heart. He hesitated for a while before opening his mouth to release countless souls and ghosts. The ghosts weaved with each other into a thick mesh net and covered the amber space. He urged his energy to shake that space. Swoosh! 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 So many wailing and screeching ghosts hovered in this piece of the universe. Serene Prison's god power rolled like a river and poured into his ghosts. However, he couldn't sway that space or pull his fellows out of the amber trap. Seeing Edgar and Serene Prison fail, Rupert didn't try and just talked gloomily. It seems like the three of us need to join hands. Serene Prison and Edgar were shaken as they thought that it was possible. They decided to join hands to try. However, in this moment, 2 divine light columns shot out from that space. After they got out, they slowly turned into Shi Yan and Montesi. They stood shoulder by shoulder, their faces complicated. They didn't look at Serene Prison and Edgar, but the solid, amber space. The strange light flared in their eyes and became more odd. The solid, sealed space cast by their soul, power Upanishads, and god power could seal the entire world and imprison the experts forever. However, when they observed the space underneath, they had a strange feeling that they couldn't explain. It felt like the world down there didn't relate a bit to them. Even if they wanted to get in there one more time, it seemed impossible. Shi Yan pondered for a while and then turned into a space lightsaber. He wanted to get in there and rescue some members of the mysterious Sky Clan and White Bone Clan. Strange things happened. When he touched that space, it felt like a massive rubber ball. It bounced him back with a soft but powerful force. He discolored in fear and turned to Montesi with a puzzled face. Montesi also tried to use her time energy to get in there. Similarly, she was sent back. She couldn't intrude that amber space. What happened? Judy quietly approached. She paused when she was dozens of meters away from the other two. We combined time and space power Upanishads to cast a seal. It works well, though. Anyway, its power was over our estimation. Even the two of us can't get into that sealed area. It looks like space there was eternally sealed and no force can tear it. Montesi resumed her natural poise. Pondering, she said sadly, "This forbidden technique is too bizarre. I didn't expect it to be so fierce like that. The warriors captured inside will exist like that forever. Unless some force breaks that space, they will never be able to get out. No seal is unbreakable." However, Yuanzu's low-pitched shout arose above their heads. Boom! Their soul altars were shaken. Then, the Black Sea emerged right before the massive absolute beginning body of Yuanzu descended. The giant turtle was much bigger than several life stars, forcefully barging into the amber space. He wanted to smash it. His real body was the absolute beginning creature called Yuan, a formidable existence at third sky of territory ancestor realm. He had the highest realm in this vast sea of stars. On Earth and in heaven, in this dark, endless universe and at the end of the mysterious abysses, only his peers like Devour, Desolate, and Ziyao could compete against him. Except for those people, Sauron, the divine dragon whose tail they couldn't see, could also deal with him. Those experts were the ones who had walked to the end of their cultivating path to reach third sky of territory ancestor realm. Even in the absolute beginning era, they were at the high echelon and not many people could resist them. With his real body and the seething Black Sea covering it, this impact was extremely tremendous. It shook the entire world as if it could break an entire natural territory. All the experts in this area were horror-struck. Even Rupert, Serene Prison, and Montesi had to change their faces as they moved backward. Only Shi Yan wore a cold face and snorted. He hid in a space crack and watched Yuan's body bump into the space. Boom, 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 boom. Yuan and his giant turtle body had condensed the weight of so many territories in the Sea of Stars to savagely attack that amber space. The shockwaves from that impact had pressed on many experts. Blood streamed down from their 7 natural facial holes. Rupert even felt his muscles shiver. The solid void caused by time and space power Upanishad, the amber, sealed space didn't even have a scratch. The warriors present here were all the strongest experts in this vast sea of stars. Whether they were from the same side or not, they were dumbstruck and their eyes were fixed on Shi Yan and Montesi. Miracle. It was a miracle. Impossible. There's no space that I can't break. There's no seal that I can't tear. Yuan howled crazily like a beast at the last moment of its life. The giant turtle body shook hard and created waves of reaching energy, which discolored even the earth and heaven. Pretty far from this area, because of his unceasing energy, many planets shattered and sank like tiny fireflies in the dark universe, disappearing to an unknown area. The territories under his seeping energy cracked and sent an apocalypse to the creatures living there. It's impossible. He was still launching more attacks and using both his energy and physical strength of the giant body to barge and tear this heavenly seal. Unfortunately, all of his deeds were gone in vain. The area where Shi Yan's and Montesi's soul, power Upanishads, and God power had soaked had become an everlasting miracle of this world. It looked like when it was created, when there was nothing in this world that could break or unseal it. The absolute time and space seals in their finest stage can even confine the world or an entire era and freeze billions of lives like insects inside amber. They will stay like that forever and nothing can change it. Deep in the void where clouds hovered, Ziyao sat on the snake head, observing and sighing. In our absolute beginning era, no creature could merge time and space closely and magically like that. I can't believe people in this era could do it. It's lucky that you guys haven't reached peak of territory ancestor realm. Otherwise, not only this area, but also the entire sea domain of nihility would have froze like this. Hearing her, all the experts looked disbelieving. They didn't know that when time and space powers were merged to the Acme, they could seal the entire world. Yuan, you can't tear that space. I can't, and neither can Desolate. Ziyao coldly looked at the giant turtle underneath and spoke indifferently, unless you can advance through the territory ancestor realm to reach that level. Yeah, the absolute beginning realm, you can use your thoughts to give birth to a whole new world. That's when you can unseal the eternal time and space seal. Her words silenced all the experts here. No one could retort. Yuan pulled himself together and mumbled, "It turns out that the rumor is correct." Chapter 1574, Ensure the Victory. Chapter 1574, Ensure the Victory __. Most of the members of the Soul Clan, Devouring Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan were sealed in that amber space. The battle with equal forces had lost its balance in just a blink of an eye. If this battle continued like this, it wasn't hard to imagine the result. The 4 clans' warriors would be erased. Even Beverly, one of the 10 great territory ancestors, the leader of the Ancient Monster Clan, was sealed there too. Without her, Edgar, Serene Prison, and Rupert would fall into a dangerous situation. Slosh. Slosh. The water murmured and Yuan inside the black water shrank rapidly. As the turtle was reducing its size, the black water was also sucked into its terrifying body little by little. Shortly, Yuan disappeared, and Yuanzu, its human clone, appeared on a river. He lifted his head to look at the dim shadow of a snake in the sky, gazing at Ziyao on the host snake with a dark and cold face while speaking, "We don't need to continue this war. We're leaving." Edgar, Serene Prison, and Rupert wore a heavy face, wincing while checking their subordinates. During this battle, their clans had to bear a significant loss. The ones in the seal were their key members. As they were frozen now, they would never be able to get rid of it. Quite the contrary, Han Tian, Hero, and the other members of their clans were stirred up by the powerful aura. They wanted to hunt the 4 clans to their last member. They were actually more eager in this battle. This war wasn't in their control anymore. If they lingered, all of their fellows would have to bury their bodies here. Edgar, Serene Prison, and Rupert nodded as they acknowledged their defeat. They wanted to leave this battlefield with Yuanzu. It's not easy to leave. Hero of the Whitebone clan was like a glowing sharp sword, locking the other 3. Han Tian and Judy sneered simultaneously while gesturing. The mysterious Sky Clan warriors gathered in response, their soul altars floating up into the sky while releasing an immense, endless energy. None of you has reached the 3rd sky of Territory Ancestor Realm. Do you think you can stop me? Yuanzu snorted. The black river underneath him suddenly stretched deep into the sea domain of nihility. The rolling stream emitted the marvelous fluctuations of the most fundamental water power Upanishad. As soon as Edgar, Serene Prison, Rupert, and their subordinates stepped into the river, Yuanzu's power protected them all. That river elongated endlessly like a black band of fabric, then took the warriors except for Edgar, Rupert, and Yuanzu, flowing away rapidly. Yuanzu and the 3 experts stood on one end of the river, protecting the others. Han Tian, Judy, Hero, and Monesi felt Yuanzu's terrifying aura from that water stream. They were a little shaken, so they didn't take action, but looked at Ziyao in the sky and Shi Yan, who was not far from them. Ziyao sat neatly on her purple crystal throne, observing everything as she spoke indifferently. "Let him go." Everybody turned to Shi Yan, who grinned evilly. "Let them go." Han Tian and the others didn't talk more. With a cold face, they watched the enemies leave as no one stopped them. Shortly, the warriors of the 4 clans were delivered deep into the void by the Black River. Yuanzu and Serene Prison raked their eyes across the crowd before stepping on the river and flowing away. After that river disappeared completely, Ziyao's snake body shrank into a green light, disappearing into her glabella. Slowly, she descended from the void, her body gracefully pretty. Yuan's pretty powerful. It didn't bear any damage from the last bloody battle of the Absolute Beginning era. After so many years of accumulation, it's truly scary. It's really bad that it's not talented at all. Although it has mastered subtle conspiracy skills, it didn't spend efforts on cultivating and battling. Thus, even if it has a lot of energy, its realm isn't high enough. Xiao turned to look at the crowd. If we don't force it too much, the threat won't be terrifying. When it feels its life threatened, it will burst out the energy it has accumulated over billions of years. At that time, except for the Territory Ancestor Realm experts, no one on our side would be able to stay alive. Hearing her, Han Tian and the others turned embarrassed, their doubts vanishing. The third sky of Territory Ancestor Realm is the utmost realm in this world. At the same time, Yuan's an absolute beginning creature. The energy it has can destroy dozens of territories. Once it bursts out, unless you are at the same realm, not many people can endure that, Xiao said calmly. The others nodded inwardly. They didn't continue the topic as they recognized that they were just dizzy because of the sudden victory. The victory is ensured. Next, we must try our best to gain more benefits. Xiao smiled, her bright eyes gazing at Shi Yan as she talked tenderly. Shi Yan will take you to get the fruits of our victory. A second sky of Territory Ancestor Realm expert who cultivates space power Upanishad is the nightmare of any enemy. Everybody couldn't help but turn to look at him as well. Shi Yan laughed, talking deliberately. The entrance to the Soul Clan is open. The 3 Territory Souls' serene prison has labored to breed for 10,000 years have been captured. The cultivating materials they have accumulated for tens of thousands of years should be cleared by now. Amar and Meiji, I guess they're attacking the Black Demon Clan and Ancient Monster Clan now. Han Tian, Hero, and Montesi were so happy that they couldn't hold back their crazy laughter. Although Yuanzu's formidable, he hasn't comprehended the space power Upanishad. At their speed, even if they know their clans have been plundered, they can't return in a short while. Shi Yan's face turned evilly cold. But I can deliver you to outside the Black Demon Clan and Ancient Monster Clan in just a blink of an eye. By the time they reach their homes, our business would be done already. Everybody had their eyes brightened on hearing that. Meanwhile, Shi Yan closed his eyes and a dazzling space mirror flew out of his glabella, which then spun and reflected many different illusional spaces. Space light radiated from these spaces and slowly turned into 3 passages. They lead to the Black Demon Clan and Ancient Monster Clan. It depends on you guys to break the barriers out there, said Shi Yan. Han Tian, Hero, and Montesi exchanged looks, then roared happily as they assigned their experts to head toward the 2 space passages. A large force of the mysterious Sky Clan and White Bone Clan disappeared into the passages. After they moved through the passage, they could see Meiji and Emperor Sea Shark. Shortly after, except for that amber-sealed space, only Shi Yan and Xiao were left in the Volcano Cloud Sea. This space-time seal is really fierce, as even Yuan couldn't break it. As a matter of fact, I can't break it either. Xiao looked pensive as she observed the eternal seal. It's a miracle made by you and that little girl. The later generations will come and behold it. Actually, I don't think I can create another miracle like this, Shi Yan frowned. Besides God power and the resonance between the power Upanishads, rare encounters and destiny are required as well. I believe Montesi has the same thought as me. We understand that we won't be able to create this sort of a miracle one more time. You're right. Many magical supernatural abilities need luck to be cast. Xiao nodded, changing the topic. How much energy have you collected this time? Shi Yan didn't answer, just smiled and closed his eyes. In this spacious battlefield, corpses were scattered everywhere while so many pieces of broken battleships hovered everywhere. Suddenly, 7 devouring black holes emerged, revolving terribly with the immense and fierce energy that was mixed and polluted with negative energies and dregs. It was waiting to be filtered and refined into pure energy. There were numerous broken pieces of souls from the mysterious Sky Clan, White Bone Clan, and Heavenly Craftsman Clan. As their souls exploded, those pieces were just bits of memory covered in energy, having no chance to revive. That's a part of the mysterious Sky Clan and White Bone Clan's members. Although they're dead, it's not good to let Han Tian and Hero see me absorb them. So, I have to wait for them to leave first, Shi Yan explained. Zia smiled and nodded. Right, they were their fellows. Although they are dead, in the others' hearts, they should rest in peace. They think like that because their vision is narrow. After all, in this world, when the creatures die, their souls will vanish, becoming heaven and earth energy one more time. 7 black holes slowly turned into 7 ink-black orbs, disappearing into his glabella. His face twisted, taking a deep breath. Not bad. I got a relatively big harvest this time. Seems like only bloody battles can facilitate my breakthrough faster. What you can do, Devour can as well. The Great War has happened in this era, so it won't stay idle. Zia looked gloomy. After it returned to the Devouring clan, its power is slowly recovering. The members of the Devouring clan have captured creatures in the territories they control for it to swallow. If it recovers to a certain level, it won't be afraid of the experts of the 7 clans. Then it will leave the lair and swallow the vast sea of stars. I have a premonition that it would seize a chance and attack. Of course, we will have a fight. My devouring power Upanishad comes from it. Only refining it will make me the only expert who possesses the devouring power Upanishad. Shi Yan talked harshly. The light column from the power Upanishad symbol tower is your key to victory. Ziya's eyes brightened. It's the light that helped you get rid of Jinru's invasion. I heard that it's the light from Absolute Beginning's eyes when it awoke and opened its eyes for the first time. One of the main materials to build the power Upanishad symbol tower is the Absolute Beginning Eye. Chapter 1575, Endless Abyss. Chapter 1575, Endless Abyss __. Empty land. So many cities had their gates opened, but there was nobody inside. It seemed that this place had been covered in dust for 10,000 years. Empty Land was one of the biggest markets of the sea domain of Nihility. Every year, millions of warriors from different clans settled here, and the number of visitors was uncountable. Every day, battleships came and went regularly. However, at this moment, it seemed that the entire Empty Land was lifeless in deadly silence. Deep in the sky, several black holes were shrinking. The bodies of so many experts were stuck in those black holes, disappearing altogether. There were numerous motionless battleships and war chariots hovering in the skies of Empty City. However, no beam of vitality was found. Time flew fast. One day, a battleship of the Potion and Tool Union came, anchoring above Empty City. A man stood on the battleship, his arms crossed in front of his chest. He looked at the quiet cities, his face shocked, and then immediately reported the situation. The news that millions of creatures living on Empty Land had disappeared mysteriously had been spread out fast. Everybody knew about it, and every clan was shaken hard in fright. This universe was facing its most dangerous time, being shaken continually. This era could end soon. Han Tian, Hero, and Montesi were leading their subordinates to attack the homelands of the Black Demon Clan and Ancient Monster Clan. They were shelling on the barriers cast by the 2 clans for tens of thousands of years to barge in. Many powerful clans dependent on the mysterious Sky Clan, Whitebone Clan, and Phantom Clan had received the information. They then immediately gathered to attack the surrounding territories. For example, Masha and Evelyn's of the Heavenly Eye clan had received orders from Judy, which asked them to find a chance and intrude the Wavy River Star area next to them or the Took Star area, which was even nearer. These 2 star areas belonged to the Soul clan. Previously, they didn't dare to trespass others' lands. However, due to the war between the 7 clans that had reduced the Soul clan's might, the Heavenly Eye clan had gathered their best force to fight. Finally, they had stepped on the path of conquering. They joined hands with some other small forces under the mysterious Sky Clan to attack the surroundings clans. The war between the 7 clans wasn't exclusive to the 7 clans themselves. Many dependent races and forces had joined this war as well. In this vast sea of stars and the borderless sea domain of Nihility, many territories and races had begun their fights. The race war was filled with slaughter, genocide, conquering, as death reached every corner of the universe, blowing past almost every race. This striking war had boiled up the Sea of Stars and the current era. So many life stars had collapsed, Numerous territories were utterly destroyed. Explosions happened everywhere. Death, slaughter, genocide, and battles happened in every territory. The vastly immense universe was shaken hard as countless warriors perished together with their homes. It was an icy, dark area. Underneath it was an endless abyss, and above it was the gray void. The suns, moons, and stars fell like a sprinkle through the gray void into this icy world. Many collapsed territories, which looked like burst-off balloons, also fell from the sky into this world. This place had clouds with many colors and bright mists. However, occupying the place were also numerous massive abysses. They were scattered amidst the sea of clouds, gathering in clusters and big masses, too numerous to count. The suns, moons, and stars falling from the sky would enter those abysses. Even the massive, shattered territory sank, falling into all those abysses. This place was called the Endless Abyss, the bottom of the universe, the lowest land under the sea domain of nihility. Rumors said that no creature could affect this place. When the world was cleared and the universe collapsed, the suns, moons, and stars would fall into the endless abyss. At this moment, because of the horrible war in the Sea of Stars, many life stars had exploded and many territories were torn apart. The broken suns, moons, and stars fell unceasingly, piercing through perpetual darkness to reach this place, and then sank into those lake-like massive abysses. Countless abysses hovered in the misty sea of clouds, always cold and silent, without a wisp of energy from living creatures. At that moment, a silhouette quietly emerged in this endless abyss. He was a middle-aged human man with white hair draped around his shoulders. With a pair of abyss-like eyes, he looked somehow archaic. He was wearing a simple, bright silver robe, walking in the void above an abyss. Sometimes, he lifted his head to watch the suns and moons falling, mumbling to himself almost. The conditions to open it will be soon met. He was Sauron, one of the 10 great territory ancestors. He was from the human clan, the real master of the potion and tool union. At the third sky of territory ancestor realm, he was the peak existence of the current era. He was walking in the void above the abysses, watching the suns, moons, and stars falling, feeling the death of countless creatures. With an indifferent face, he was talking to himself. The surface of each abyss he had walked through slowly projected some mysterious but incredible images of the warriors dying and soul altars exploding. Those images seemed to be the memories of the planets when they fell into the abysses. In silence, they were telling him many things. He rarely showed himself. During the last tens of thousands of years, he had settled here to observe the absolute beginning gateway hidden in there. He was waiting and promoting the chances of opening it. The absolute beginning gateway hid inside the endless abyss. This place was a mysterious land that had always been sealed since the absolute beginning era. The absolute beginning creatures had paid with the end of their era, but none of them could break the territory ancestor realm to enter the utmost eternal realm. The closed absolute beginning gateway didn't open at that time. Sauron had stayed here and observed for tens of thousands of years, trying to find the way to open the absolute beginning gateway. To do that, he had done everything he could. Boop! As he was walking above an abyss, it suddenly changed into a clear lake. Inside the lake, a shadow slowly formed. It was Jinru. Jinru was standing on a cold dead star in the sea domain of nihility. The lake also showed many members of the myriad-shaped tribe who wore sorrowful faces and groaned in agony for the deaths of their fellows. You deceived me. All of my efforts were smashed by the light from the power Upanishad symbol tower. I had almost been killed there. Many of my fellows died to save me. I've sacrificed so many warriors for your plan. You must shoulder the responsibility for the loss of our clan. Jinru's cold voice pierced through the lake, coming from a deep place inside the universe to this endless abyss. The shoulder-length white-haired Sauron wore an unconcerned face, his voice cold. It's your greed that has harmed you. I did remind you. I asked you to instigate Canasy and Fandalay's resentments against Shi Yan and make them fight against each other. I had never told you to kill him. He was able to fuse with the power Upanishad symbol tower. Do you think you can kill him? Without waiting for Jinru to snap back, Sauron talked coldly. I told Monesi to give him the Cloud Mist territory so that he could have a chance of obtaining the Skyfall Star River, which helped him attain the absolute beginning body. I want him to live well. He's the most important step in my plan. As he's the key to open the absolute beginning gateway, before the gateway opens, he must live well. Yuanzhu has provoked a war between the 7 clans. Is it a part of your plan, too? The 7 clans are fighting. The entire universe is in chaos. So many suns, moons, and stars are shattering. This absolutely prosperous time will come to an end because of this. Is that what you really want? Roared Jinru. No era can last forever. The absolute beginning era was extremely rich and powerful, but it disappeared in the long river of history. How could it not happen? In my eyes, the end of the absolute beginning era didn't bring any benefit because that gateway never opened. If it requires the end of our era to open the absolute beginning gateway, I think it will be worth it, said Sauron firmly. Devour is killing around the Sea of Stars, slaughtering the big territories to recover its energy. The Sea of Stars can't endure its swallowing campaign anymore. It's getting more intimidating. If it is fully recovered, do you think you can still control the general situation? Jinru hissed. It's still in my hands. Even if Devour returns to its peak condition, as long as it doesn't make the last step, it can't enter the eternal, utmost realm. So, it's still in my hands, Sauron said calmly. Pausing for a while, he frowned for the first time. Shi Yan is the only variable. Since I can't hold his string of fate, I will sweep him away first after he opens the absolute beginning gateway. Who is that Shi Yan? What has happened after all? Why couldn't you grasp his string of fate? You can see Devours and Desolates, so how could you not see his? Jinru was surprised. Sauron pondered for a long time and then said in a gloomy voice, during the last tens of thousands of years, I've been here, guarding the endless abyss and observing the absolute beginning gateway to check if it would change. However, after dozens of thousands of years, it hasn't had any minor change. I was even about to give up once. Jinru was so curious, listening to him. She wanted to know what had occurred. At the moment I was almost hopeless. On a day hundreds of years ago, a flow of soul light flew out of that absolute beginning gateway. That flow of soul had pierced through the endless abyss and disregarded the space limits to enter desolate territory, landing on the Grace mainland. That soul light was Shi Yan's host soul, said Sauron. A soul flew out of the absolute beginning gateway? Jinru was dumbstruck. Sauron nodded. After his soul flew away, the absolute beginning gateway that stood still for tens of thousands of years began to change subtly. Chapter 1576, Establish the World. Chapter 1576, Establish the World __. The Cloud Mist territory was located deep inside a sea of clouds. The Grace mainland that came from the desolate territory hovered inside the thick clouds as bands of smokes and mists twirled around the planet like ribbons. Heaven and earth energy moved like dragons in every corner of the continent. The warriors from desolate territory like Yang Tian Emperor, Shi Yan, Longju, Karthu, and many other characters from different forces stayed here to cultivate their bodies and soul, comprehending power Upanishads and improving their god power ancient tree to reach the higher realms. Many of them had their realms broken through quickly. As they had access to abundant heaven and earth energy here, their progress was steadily fast. Today, 3 tunnels made of space ripples got through the territory from unknown areas, all appearing above the Grace mainland. The 3 tunnels pierced through the territory entrance, falling like a galaxy. Many warriors on the Grace mainland were startled, floating up and gathering by the entrance of the 3 tunnels. Shortly after, silhouettes began to fly out of the tunnels. Emperor Sea Shark, Ming Hao, Xian He, Audrey, Azure Dragon, De Carlos, and Frederick brought their warriors home. They all smiled, talking cheerily and loudly from the 3 tunnels. The 3 tunnels were connected to the territories of the Soul Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan respectively. Representing the forces in the Cloud Mist territory, they had obtained a major harvest from the headquarters of the three great clans, which were the cultivating materials the three clans had collected and accumulated over tens of thousands of years. We don't need to worry about cultivating materials even after 10,000 years. Let alone our Grace mainland. Even if we had warriors from 10 Grace mainlands, we're sure we could satisfy their needs of cultivation resources. Ming Hao's cold face wore a sincere smile. Under the furious attacks of Han Tian, Hero, and Montesi, the Black Demon and Ancient Monster clans' ancestral lands had fallen. Experts of the mysterious Sky Clan, White Bone Clan, Phantom Clan, and the Grace mainland had swarmed toward them like hungry wolves, plundering all properties and precious assets. From now on, the warriors on the Grace mainland didn't need to worry about their pellets, tools, armors, books of power Upanishads, and other cultivation aids. There were no doubts that they could reach high realms eventually. A large amount of cultivation materials were transported through the three tunnels from the Soul Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan. The warriors on the Grace mainland were so excited when they found out about the spoils they obtained, and everybody soon became busy. Bring them all to the Endless Sea. We will arrange later. Everyone will get their share. Even your later generations will have the best cultivation materials. I'm sure we can use them for the next 10,000 years. Ming Hao screamed. Under his arrangement, the cultivation materials from the three clans were stacked up like mountains. The experts then levitated them and transported them to the Endless Sea. At the same time, things happened the same in the mysterious Sky Clan, White Bone Clan, and Phantom Clan. Through the space tunnels, the White Bone Clan, mysterious Sky Clan, and Phantom Clan had also attained a great harvest. They gathered the spoils they obtained and transported them to their territories. The Soul Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan's properties were cleared, and the guards in their headquarters were all killed. When Serene Prison and Rupert came home, what awaited them would be the three large ruins. Staying hidden in a world between the Phantom Clan and White Bone Clan was a mysterious territory entrance which led to Cloud Mist territory. At this moment, Shi Yan was sitting cross-legged in that empty void. Starlight bloomed and sprinkled from his body. The Skyfall Star River was activated shortly as it moved and overflowed like a stream of starlight, heading to a deep place. Pieces of free asteroids and broken planets around him were attracted by his star power Upanishad, gathering from far away. Gradually, the empty area was packed with asteroids that slowly piled upon each other. Pairs of giant hands made of stars twisted and squeezed them, creating a massive planet. This planet had the broken pieces of asteroids and planets as the foundation. At first, it was tiny, but the continent began to enlarge as Shi Yan poured more energy. After an unknown time, along with his uncontrollably increasing energy, that planet was now 10 times bigger than the Grace mainland, and it was more colossal than the Dragon Lizard Star. The massive continent hovered in the void, gradually transforming into a magical land like the ancestral land of the Phantom Clan or the White Bone Clan. Heaven and earth energy gathered, becoming as thick as a fog that never dispersed. Time flew by, and finally, the new continent had been established. Receiving his message, a group of experts living on the Grace mainland like Emperor Sea Shark, Xian He, and Ming Hao flew toward him from the secret entrance. They began to build cities and palaces on this new planet, plant spirit herbs, arrange formations, dig up channels to guide the outer space flood to make seas and rivers. They even piled up the rocks to create high mountains and urged the wood power Upanishad to grow forests. Slowly, the new continent grew vigorously, now having mountains, rivers, lakes, and murmuring energy. It even had jungles and volcanoes, all things suitable for the warriors to live and cultivate in. The new continent had become a magical land which could be compared to the ancestral lands of the Phantom Clan, White Bone Clan, and mysterious Sky Clan in the sea domain of nihility. It gathered many experts of the Grace mainland who stayed there to survive and cultivate, gathering energy from outer space to expand the land further, making it formidable. The low-realm warriors at Original God Realm, King God Realm, or Lower Realm stayed on the Grace mainland in the Cloud Mist territory. They continued to cultivate and advance their power in that closed but safe environment. The new continent was situated in the sea domain of Nihility, right at the entrance to Cloud Mist territory. At the same time, the Cloud Mist territory was an independent territory, which was sealed and pretty safe. In a corner of the new continent, which was considered a forbidden place, was a strange desert with yellow, flying sand. It was quiet and burning hot. Deep in the desert was a vacuum where a majestic man was sitting. He had been sitting there for so many years. One day, the territory ancestors, including Mondesi, Meiji, Hero, Han Tian, Judy, Forefather Dragon Lizard, and Dracula appeared in the sky. They observed the new land, their eyes radiating strange lights. 30 years ago, this place was just an empty space with rare rocks and broken planets. It used to be isolated and cold. But after 30 years, a planet had emerged with thick heaven and earth energy, mountains and rivers. Everything was growing lushly. Many cities were built where warriors lived and cultivated. It had become a magical land like the Empty Land. Someone had created it from nothing by squeezing asteroids and planets together. Get down there, Hero looked at that area deep inside the desert. The others nodded, then turned into jets of light, zooming toward that area. In the control center of this new continent, Ming Hao, who was at the territory ancestor realm, suddenly frowned. He turned into a shadow, walking out of the fortress and hovering in the void of the planet. Experts from the Whitebone clan, the Phantom clan, and mysterious Sky clan, Emperor Sea Shark's voice came from another city. Dismiss the light protection. They have come to find Shi Yan. Ming Hao nodded in response. An invisible cage that protected the entire planet vanished slowly. The planet looked like an egg that had its shell peeled off as the outermost protection was dismissed. Han Tian slowly nodded. They're doing great. They've done a lot of excellent work with so many heaven and earth treasures from the Soul Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan. This protection formation isn't weaker than the one the Soul Clan used to have. The Soul Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan have declined, and they're rising. They're now the strongest force in this vast sea of stars. Hero watched the cities underneath and felt the intimidating auras inside as he said, after several hundred years, they will be as strong as our 3 clans. With Shi Yan and that woman, nothing is impossible for them. 30 years later, Mondesi hadn't been able to reverse time to appear in her little girl body. The wounds she had to bear from the previous battle weren't recovered fully. She squinted, observing the still figure in the desert while feeling complicated. While talking, they landed like meteors or rainbows at the center of the desert, gathering by Shi Yan. Shi Yan was sitting motionlessly in the vacuum area. He was right in front of them, but Han Tian, Hero, and Mondesi couldn't feel his soul signals. It was as if he wasn't there. The strange feeling shook them as they knew that his realm had advanced further. Cough, cough. Hero looked at him and coughed, his eyes yearning. Everybody scrutinized him, waiting for him to wake up. No one made any noise. A long time later, that vacuum area slowly disappeared. Yellow sand flew everywhere, covering his body. At this moment, he opened his eyes, which looked misty and puzzled. After a while, his eyes regained focus. It seemed he had traveled through times and space, so he couldn't locate himself yet. They didn't talk much, just watched and waited for him. After 15 minutes, he regained his sound mind, his eyes turning deep and bright as he smiled. You've come early. After saying that, he touched his forehead, causing 2 dazzling absolute beginning symbols to fly out. The 2 absolute beginning symbols had thick time and metal auras. I promised you to refine an absolute beginning original symbol. Here you are. Take them. The time original symbol turned into a jet of light, entering Mondesi's eyes. Mondesi's mesmerizing appearance slowly changed as the time reversed. She got shorter, her cascading hair shrank into her head, and her ample bosom turned smaller. After dozens of seconds, Mondesi had returned to her 12-year-old little girl appearance. At the same time, her attainment in Power Upanishad had increased. Hero with the metal original symbol was like a sharp sword that could break the sky, carrying an invincible aura with his keen power. He was so thrilled that he could say nothing but thank you. Chapter 1577, Prevailing Trend. Chapter 1577, Prevailing Trend __. Shi Yan stood up, his long, black hair reaching his waist. He had a majestic body like a mountain accompanying his sculpted face, filled with an attractive masculine beauty. He grinned, asking, "How's the prevailing trend of this vast sea of stars?" Just quieted down, Meiji looked at him, her beautiful eyes fascinated. She chuckled and explained, "The war between 7 clans has stirred up the entire sea of stars. The smaller clans dependent on the 7 clans are also fighting. Death has cast its shadow on every territory as warriors are attacking each other in almost every life star. Everybody was emotional because of the brutal war in the universe." They didn't interfere, just letting Meiji continue her explanation. "We, the mysterious Sky Clan, the White Bone Clan, and you guys cleared the lairs of the Soul Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan. We've shared the properties they had accumulated over tens of thousands of years. After Rupert and Serene Prison came back to their ruined homelands, they went crazy. They gathered their forces in the other territories to fight against us. Too bad for them. At first, you massacred their clans and sealed a large number of their elite force in the volcano Cloud Sea. Thus, they didn't have enough forces. The Soul Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan were defeated constantly. Eventually, Serene Prison and Rupert knew that they didn't have the strength to reverse the situation. They took their remaining members and hid away. Even the Phantom Clan doesn't know where they are. So, you guys have shared the territories and star areas the Soul Clan, Ancient Monster Clan, and Black Demon Clan controlled?" Shi Yan squinted, looking at Han Tian, Hero, and Monasi. Han Tian laughed and didn't deny. "You guys took a large amount of cultivation materials from the Soul Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan. We didn't ask for a bigger share. You guys got the right to choose first. At that time, we did say that we had to get more benefits later." Hero added timely, "Your foundation isn't big enough, and you don't have a large population either. Even if you placed your hands on those territories, you wouldn't be able to keep them." Shi Yan nodded, waving his hand. "Never mind. We know our competence. Yeah, at this moment, they're not capable of gaining more. Continue. How about the Devouring Clan?" Hearing that, the people pulled a stern face. Among the 4 clans, the Devouring Clan bore the least damage. While we were fighting in Volcano Cloud Sea, Devour didn't stay idle. He had furiously swallowed billions of creatures on empty land, which is now a dead area. No creature survived there. Meiji's face was cold. Its madness hadn't stopped there. It went to the Sea of Annihilation, covering the place. So many races and creatures in the Sea of Annihilation were cleared in the same manner. The Sea of Annihilation now deserves its name, totally annihilated. Mentioning the absolute beginning creature Devour, they didn't have a relaxed countenance. Hero and Han Tian also put on a solemn face as they considered Devour a great danger. After slaughtering the empty land and the Sea of Annihilation, Devour quieted down. "We got the news that it's staying in the Devouring Clan's territory. It hasn't shown up after dozens of years," said Meiji. Shi Yan nodded. "It's like me. After a frantic devouring time, we need to refine the energy and discharge the dregs. Otherwise, our soul would collapse, which would reduce our realm. I'm sure it has been refining energy during recent years. When it wakes up, it will be even more terrifying." Everybody had a heavy face as they were listening to him. Anyway, the Devouring Clan doesn't have a relaxed life. Families and friends of the victims Devour had killed in empty land and the Sea of Annihilation are billions, scattered in many big territories in the Sea of Stars. They've gathered and attacked the Devouring Clan several times. Meiji smiled coldly. "We did join their operations secretly. We've hit the Devouring Clan hard and left them with a lot of heavy damages. They learned experience from the Soul Clan, Ancient Monster Clan, and Black Demon Clan, and have run away. We don't know where they are hiding right now. It's because Devour needs time to recover. It couldn't take action during the riots. Otherwise, you guys couldn't have forced them to retreat and seclude easily like that," Shi Yan furrowed his brows while talking. When it has recovered, of course, it will raise the storm again. At that time, not many existences can subdue it. Everybody sank into a silence. After several fierce battles, they knew how formidable the absolute beginning creatures like Devourer, Yuanzhu, and Ziyao were. They recognized that the absolute beginning creatures at the third sky of Territory Ancestor Realm were almost invincible. They also understood that because of Yuanzhu, the Soul Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan could hide away, and they couldn't find them in this dark outer space. Only Yuanzhu had the power and was cunning enough to conceal the three entire clans. "Where is she?" Meiji asked all of a sudden, but she didn't look at Shi Yan. Everybody was surprised, watching the latter. Of course, Shi Yan knew who they were talking about. Ziyao had disappeared mysteriously for 30 years. Although the Phantom Clan had an excellent intelligence system, such that they had ears and eyes in every corner of the universe, they had never spotted her. It actually scared them too. Ziyao was the absolute beginning creature called Hui, and her intimidation had been carved deep in their minds. Monesi, Hero, and Han Tian thought that Ziyao was the pillar, the existence that could resist Devourer and Yuanzhu. They had to care about her ability to determine their direction in the future. They knew that no one in this dark universe could know about her condition besides Shi Yan. Just like Devourer, she's trying her best to recover her energy. "I have never asked or searched for her whereabouts," Shi Yan gave them a vague answer. "Another one, Desolate. How is it doing?" Han Tian pondered, his face respectful and scared. "Recently, he hasn't made any move. Desolate territory has disappeared. Judy and I got through the Sea of Annihilation to get to the entrance. We wanted to intrude desolate territory to see. However, behind that entrance was just an endless void, as the desolate territory was gone." Judy looked frightened. "Rumors say that he was the god of war in the absolute beginning era. He used to be the peerless expert of that time. His movement's important to us as well. Only you can feel his existence. How is he now?" Everybody glued their eyes on Shi Yan. Shi Yan winced. After a while, he shook his head and said, "I don't know. I can't feel his existence. As his power has recovered, I've gradually lost the connection with him. It seems like he has vanished from my soul sensing. But the pressure he gives me stays all the time." Taking a deep breath, Shi Yan hissed, "He must be getting stronger. I'm sure I will have a chance to win in the battle with Yuanzhu, but still, his pressure exists deep in my soul like a perpetual shadow. The only thing I can confirm is that he's much more dangerous than Yuanzhu now." Everybody was shaken hard. They looked disbelievingly as a shadow began to cast over their hearts. Desolate, the god of war, was the strongest absolute beginning creature at the peak of Territory Ancestor Realm, just one step away from the utmost realm. Hui and Devourer had joined hands to attack him, but they didn't win. The final battle of Absolute Beginning Era had ended with the dormancy of the three, which also announced the end of their era. "It's good that you come here today. It could be a good chance to find Desolate," Shi Yan said after a while, his face earnest. "What?" Han Tian didn't get it. "Follow me to Cloud Mist territory. Help me cover that entire natural territory. I want to merge the Grace mainland into my absolute beginning body," Shi Yan hissed. Then, he didn't wait for Han Tian's team to show their extreme fear as flows of souls flew out of his head, which looked identical to him. They glided fast above the new continent, which was called Heavenly Rock, finding Xian He, Ming Hao, Emperor Sea Shark, Audrey, De Carlos, and the others to send his message. Shortly, a hidden entrance opened up. Emperor Sea Shark, Ming Hao, and Xian He moved to that territory entrance, going to the Grace mainland inside Cloud Mist territory. Billions of warriors and ordinary people living on the Grace mainland received the order to relocate. The warriors at the King God realm had to move to the Heavenly Rock continent in Sea Domain of Nihility, while ordinary people and warriors under the King God realm were relocated to the Life Stars around the Cloud Mist territory. Deep in the thick mist of the Cloud Mist territory, Shi Yan hovered like a god observing the Grace mainland and the leaders like Emperor Sea Shark, Xian He, and Ming Hao controlling the warriors and ordinary people to move to different planets. Gradually, creatures on the Grace mainland were delivered away. Shi Yan's soul consciousness stretched like billions of tentacles to check every corner of the Grace mainland in case they had missed some creatures or humans. Many massive cities, palaces, and buildings made of giant rock were plucked by this supernatural ability of the warriors. They floated up, moving to different continents. 30 years ago, Shi Yan had attracted the asteroids and broken planets to create the Heavenly Rock continent. It was the new home for the warriors from the Grace mainland. The Grace mainland was one of Desolate's parts, a big part for that matter. Shi Yan could feel that he could take and merge that body part into his absolute beginning body, making it a part of his. For 1/5 of Desolate's body, he had planned over so many years, and today, the time had finally come. Chapter 1578, Head to the Holy Land. Chapter 1578, Head to the Holy Land. Underscore the eternal sealed area created by Shi Yan and Montesi, Volcano Cloud Sea. Many warriors were scattered outside the amber sealed area. Some were discharging dregs in their bodies while others were trying to learn the power Upanishads. Also, there were visitors traveling to this place just to watch the experts of the 4 clans who were sealed like fossils inside the amber. This place had become a wonder of the sea domain of nihility, a miracle that attracted many experts to come and behold. Inside that eternal seal, Beverly was beautiful with her snake body. She was really outstanding in the middle of tens of thousands other warriors. People came, watching and pointing at her. She's Beverly, one of the 10 great territory ancestors. She was the master of the ancient demon clan. Too bad that she has been sealed here for more than 30 years. This land could seal one of the 10 great territory ancestors. Of course, it attracted a lot of eyes. Except for that, this place had more magical features. At first, when someone cultivated outside, they found that time seemed to go slower. Although they felt that they had been there and cultivated for 100 years, only a little more than 10 years passed in reality. Around the Eternal Seal area, time flew disorderly, and it seemed to be slightly held. To some people that didn't have long lifespans, this place was the best place to cultivate. They could spend a dozen years to exchange for 100 years of accumulating energy and comprehending their realm. What was better than this? That's why many warriors around couldn't help but gather around the outer edge of the sealed area to cultivate. It was how they saved their time. The seal was so vast and the peripheral area seemed almost endless. Thus, even if tens of thousands of warriors were cultivating here at the same time, they wouldn't disturb each other. Especially for the warriors cultivating time and space power Upanishads, they didn't mind the long distance to come to this place. They had crossed many territories to come here as if it was the best pilgrimage in their lives. To them, this place was a real holy land. This magical land was created by the power of time and space, and it casted an eternal seal. It could guide them and provide them with a place to observe and learn the mysteries of time and space power Upanishads. Many men and women cultivating space and time power Upanishads came as they knew Shi Yan and Montesi had magically cast this wonder by combining their power Upanishads. During their cultivation, many of them had become husbands and wives. It had somehow become a romantic legend. In a remote corner, a man shrouded in a jet-black robe was standing. He hovered like a ghost. The hood of his robe concealed his face. From a distance, he was watching the sealed area. Observing Beverly for a while, he stooped and sighed. After a long time, another figure came. He looked imposing with thick demon chi meandering around his body, which also hid his appearance. He came to the ghost in a black robe and hissed, "Brother Serene Prison." The thick demon chi dispersed and it revealed Rupert's handsome but severe face. He looked at Beverly, his face complicated. The man put back the hood on his head. He was Serene Prison. Deep in his dark eyes, a flame of anger burned. "We've been fighting for 30 years. We are worn out. After the ancient demon clan lost Beverly, it was divided. They don't have the power to resist anymore. Our 2 clans have been defeated continuously. We're dispirited. All is because of the seal. It confines our elite force. If not, how could we be so pathetic like this?" Rupert said with a dark face. "I've been here for 3 years and I've tried so many ways. I even sent my soul to the seal. Serene Prison wore an ashen face as he shook his head and said desperately, "It's so evil. That seal prevents even the soul. My soul consciousness couldn't intrude. Sigh, if we can't break the seal, our elite force can't get out. We will have to live like turtles. We won't dare to fight Han Tian and Hero. They'd killed millions of our warriors in our homelands. They plundered all the properties we accumulated for tens of thousands of years." Rupert's eyes had a spooky flame of wrath as he spoke through his gritted teeth. "I must take revenge on them. The glory of our Black Demon clan, the faith that we have held high for tens of thousands of years, can't be erased in my hands. The Soul Clan will not decline in my hands either." Serene Prison hissed. Slosh, slosh, slosh. Sloshing water arose when a black stream zoomed in from a far distance. A figure slowly materialized in the black water. It was Yuan Zhu in his human form. He came to Serene Prison and Rupert and said, "Don't worry. Your clans won't decline. As long as you can reach Third Sky of Territory Ancestor Realm, we can overturn everything in just a blink of an eye." Third Sky of Territory Ancestor Realm? Sigh, that's easier said than done. Serene Prison wore a bitter face. "Your chance is right in front of you. I have news from Sauron. He said that the Absolute Beginning Gateway is changing more. It's about to open. During our Absolute Beginning era, it never had any commotion. It holds the last riddle of Earth and Heaven. We tried everything, but we couldn't open it that year. But now, it's obvious that the gateway is about to open." Rupert and Serene Prison's eyes brightened when they heard that. Belonging to the most prominent group in this universe, they had chances to talk to Sauron. Of course, they knew the meaning of the Absolute Beginning Gateway. Actually, if the 7 clans didn't have that war, they would have been preparing to enter that door. The Absolute Beginning Gateway can change everything. It can reverse your bad situations. Seeing that they were moved, Yuan Zhu tried to entice them. "Your remaining fellows are safe now. I've hidden them away. Come with me to the Absolute Beginning Gateway to slaughter Shi Yan's team. As long as we win the battle at the Absolute Beginning Gateway, you guys can determine the future of this universe." "What does Sauron think?" Rupert asked all of a sudden. Serene Prison also pulled a stern face. "Yeah, what is his attitude?" "I'm not sure, actually. Anyway, I think that because Sauron planned this for thousands of years, he must have accurate calculations." Yuan Zhu stooped to watch the sea of clouds under his feet. "I always feel that the chaos in our universe is instigated by Sauron. Although this man is from the human clan, he's very smart. I can say that he's the strongest expert of this era. I can't see him through. He has his conspiracy, but no one can scheme the Absolute Beginning Gateway. As long as you agree to help me, I'm sure your Soul Clan and Black Demon Clan will become the strongest clan in this world in the future." "Who will come to the Absolute Beginning Gateway besides us?" asked Serene Prison. "Of course, Edgar and the Devouring Clan will join this. Recently, Devour has created so many calamities in Empty Land and the Sea of Annihilation to recover his power. He's preparing to go to the Absolute Beginning Gateway. They will be a part of this." Yuan Zhu's eyes flared with evil lights. "Han Tian, Montesi, Hero, Shi Yan, and Zy will form a party. They're the key. Since Shi Yan has the power Upanishad symbol tower, Sauron will try every means he has to lure him there." Pausing for a while, Yuan Zhu said, "Sauron and Jinru have joined hands discreetly. This time, after Myriad Shape Tribe got damaged badly, they've retreated. Jinru, of course, is on Sauron's side. As the one who planned all of these, Sauron is guarding the Absolute Beginning Gateway. They are the most formidable party because Sauron knows a lot of things about the Absolute Beginning Gateway." "And who else?" asked Rupert. Yuan Zhu quieted down. After a long time, he wore a respectful face and said, "I'm sure Desolate won't miss it." That year, he even used his intimidating power to attack the Absolute Beginning Gateway directly. If he hadn't failed and got hurt severely, Hui and Devour couldn't have dismembered him and sent him into a coma like that. "Is Desolate that fierce?" Serene Prison was frightened. Yuan Zhu pulled a sour face and sighed. "He can be much more terrifying than you think. Each era has its peerless warrior. Sauron of your era is a peak existence. He's invincible. In my time, Desolate was the sort of existence like Sauron. He's an invincible legend. All the creatures in my time had to live in his shadow. If we let him recover fully, I don't know who can fight him. At that time, he'll be the biggest variable. Sigh, even though I know he was dormant in desolate territory, I didn't dare to get there and fuse with him. Rupert and Serene Prison exchanged looks. They understood that Yuan Zhu had an instinctive fear for desolate, which made their hearts heavier because they hadn't thought about desolate much. If we can save Beverly, we will have a greater chance. Do you have any strategy? Serene Prison looked at Yuan Zhu. Before you came, I've tried many times. It would be a miracle if we break this time and space seal. Yuan Zhu shook his head reluctantly. If I could, I would have done it already. We should have seized time when we could to prepare for the battle at the Absolute Beginning Gateway. What do we need to prepare? Serene Prison was surprised. In the Absolute Beginning era, I didn't join the last battle. I was hiding at that time. It's the only Absolute Beginning land that has been preserved perfectly until now. I've hidden it. No one knows where it is. It still has some good things from the Absolute Beginning era that you can use to enhance your power, smiled Yuan Zhu. Serene Prison's and Rupert's eyes brightened. Follow me. Before Sauron contacts me, we must accumulate energy for the last battle. Yuan Zhu stepped on the Black River and headed towards the Dark Void. You guys shouldn't think too much about your clan in a harsh condition. You should know this. As soon as we can harvest something in the Absolute Beginning Gateway, it will be much more than what we used to have. Chapter 1579. Smelting. Chapter 1579. Smelting. Flows of terrifying aura emitted from cloud mist territory hovered in the air and shook every soul in this territory. Many people were relocated to Heavenly Rock Continent or the other life stars around from the former Holy Land of Cloud Tribe. The experts like Ming Hao, Xian He, Emperor Sea Shark, Sha Zhao, Shang Qin, and the others were working unceasingly to help their fellows moving out of this place. In the misty sea of clouds, Hero, Han Tian, Judy, and Montesi were watching Grace Mainland and discussing in low voices. On Grace Mainland, Shi Yan was like an ancient demogorgon as he appeared in his absolute beginning body. The fierce, overbearing aura that was emitted made every creature shiver in fear. Shi Yan's absolute beginning body was like a massive shadow cast over Grace Mainland that covered all the light from the sky. His body was like a colossal mountain. The suns, moons, and stars sparkled in his eyes, which were deep and twinkling like the immense universe. His iron-like body was covered in thick scale armor, which was naturally connected to his skins and flesh. Bone spikes grew from his bones like so many sharp swords and flashed coldly. What an amazing absolute beginning body! The immense quantity of his blood chi has shaken everyone's soul, said Gay of the White Bone Clan as he was eyeing Shi Yan's body. It's the real absolute beginning body. Sigh, I'm far behind this. Forefather Dragon Lizard sounded emotional. When the last group of mortals left the place, Ming Hao, Xian He, and Frederick sent the soul message to Shi Yan and reported to him that no creature was left on Grace Mainland. Many cities, countries, and mountains of pellets and materials were teleported away from Grace Mainland by the experts' supernatural abilities. At this moment, Grace Mainland was vast with forests and rivers scattered like blood veins everywhere. However, there was no creature and no sign of a country or life. However, looking at this life star, no one would have thought that it was barren as they all felt the immense and vigorous energy on this planet. The energy fluctuations here were so powerful. All warriors of Cloud Mist territory were arranged to stay pretty far away from this area. They couldn't see Shi Yan's giant figure. While I'm melting Grace Mainland, you guys seal the entire territory. Don't let any soul consciousness intrude. Shi Yan hovered above the continent, his voice like thunderclaps. Hero, Han Tian, and the others nodded. Shi Yan didn't say more. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. His beautiful, colossal soul altar arose from his head like an unfolding roll of picture. Underneath the borderless sea of consciousness emitted the energy that could cover the entire world. The soul pond in the center wasn't small anymore, the crystal clear soul energy murmuring. The tier of power Upanishad was above the sea of consciousness with the space imprint that was like a prism. The star imprint was like a galaxy, the life imprint was like a light ball, and the devouring imprint was like a black hole. The 8 evil powers appeared as the 8 islands. The space above that tier was a chaotic area, which was Shi Yan's territory. That territory seemed to be concealed by a block of blurry air, which hindered people from seeing what was inside. However, when they used their souls to sense, they felt an infinitely mysterious feeling as if their souls had just touched a window to another universe. They felt that they had sensed the magical power of creation. Everybody exchanged looks. They couldn't hide the fear on their faces. They knew Shi Yan's territory was magical with endless secrets. The 2 identical souls, which looked like Shi Yan's real body, hovered above the chaotic territory. They were like twins. The soul mist emitted from them and gathered by the chaotic territory. Among the 2 souls, the host's soul looked blurry, and it had the same shade with the turbulent territory. The power Upanishad symbol tower floated above the co-soul and slowly moved as if it would never cease. It was strange to the eyes, indeed. As the experts were watching him, Shi Yan closed his eyes. However, his host's soul's eyes still opened. The light in his eyes shot like meteors toward Grace Mainland. All of a sudden, a 5-colored sea of flames emerged from under the co-soul. That sea of flames had auras of the flames from the origin. It expanded and flew out of the soul altar, aimed at Grace Mainland. Boom! Shortly after, the entire Grace Mainland was covered in the 5-colored flame sea. The auras of the heaven flames merged with Shi Yan's soul energy and soul consciousness, shrouding the entire continent. Magically, the heaven flames were burning Grace Mainland. However, they didn't burn the forest, crack the ground, or dry the seas. Although it was so scorching that Judy, Han Tian, and the others could feel the terrifying heat, it didn't destroy the natural landscapes of the continent. The sea of flames had turned Grace Mainland into a massive, burning globe. The horrible flames shot out everywhere and burned the void. The surrounding temperature rocketed. De Carlos, Adels, and the other low-realm experts couldn't resist the heat waves. They had to move backward and hover far from the scene. Seal the territory. Shi Yan's soul message filled the entire territory and made all the experts in this place receive it. Han Tian, Hero, and Montesi exchanged looks. They immediately took action, strengthening all the territory barriers and concealing the territory entirely. No wisp of soul consciousness could intrude this territory. You're a little wanton. If you want to refine Desolate's clone, you should tell me first. Right when they were about to take action, Ziyao's voice came from deep in the sea of clouds underneath. You're lucky that I got it when you started. Yeah, I'm here to help. Even if Desolate knows what you want to do now, he can't affect you. Everybody was stunned, and they all looked at the clouds under their feet. Ziyao, who had disappeared for years, slowly emerged from mist territory underneath. She was still dazzlingly gorgeous. At this moment, the light in her eyes was so terrifying. During the recent 10 years, she had cultivated ascetically in mist territory under cloud mist territory. Cloud mist territory was formed by cloud territory and mist territory. The layers of clouds supported cloud territory while the continent down there was mist territory. Walking out from mist territory, Ziyao gave a faint smile as the snake mark on her forehead vibrated strangely. Shortly after, billions of 7-colored divine light bands turned into countless snakes with consciousness expanded to the entire territory and guarding every barrier. The entire cloud mist territory had become brilliant with so many colors. It looked like millions of fireworks exploded at the same time. The scene was so beautiful that it made people feel they were dreaming. 7-colored halos appeared and covered the entire territory, sinking each planet of this territory in rainbow bands and auspicious clouds. It was strikingly marvelous indeed. Just like a miracle. Han Tian, Hero, Montesi, and the others could feel the changes of the territory and the intimidating energy released by Ziyao alone. They were all frightened. Soon, they recognized that after 30 years staying silent, Ziyao was much stronger than she used to be in the battle against Yuanzhu in Volcano Cloud Sea. I know you won't stay idle down there. You can take action to help me in any minute. It seems like your power is almost recovered. Shi Yan grinned and watched Ziya floating up. If you weren't here, I wouldn't dare to do it so early. I would have waited until I reached third sky of Territory Ancestor Realm to refine this clone of Desolate. Then why didn't you wait a little more? If you reach third sky of Territory Ancestor Realm, even without me here, you can successfully melt his clone. It will reduce the risk to the lowest level, said Ziya with a frown. He won't give me much more time. Shi Yan pondered for a while, his eyes like a moving galaxy. He looked in a direction, his eyes piercing through all space barriers to reach the mysterious area. I can't feel his whereabouts, but the pressure he puts on me never subsided. I think he prepared well. He will come to me soon. I don't have much time left. Hearing him, Ziya put on a stern face. She knew how bold Desolate was more than anyone else. Thus, she understood Shi Yan's worries. All right, do it now. We will join hands. I think we can stop his furious attack. Ziya didn't dare to linger. As he wasn't here yet, he should have something he was afraid of. You should seize the chance and refine his body. If you can take this energy, when you face him, you will have the power to counter. Her face turned solemn. She took a deep breath and then asked Hero, Han Tian, and Montesi, listen, go and guard the big barriers of this territory. Follow my lead to strengthen the barrier. Don't act alone. Otherwise, we can't promote and use your power to the acme. Hero, you go east. Using the metal power to increase the thickness of the barrier. Use the metal rocks of the 3 continents around to create a metal wall. Han Tian, go south. It's a burning area with so many volcanoes. It's suitable for your power to be maximized there. Remember to gather all of your energy to control the surrounding flames and create a sea of fire. Whenever you spot a wisp of intruding soul consciousness, tell me immediately. Don't attack it. Ziya wasn't trying to be polite. She ordered Hero, Han Tian, Montesi, Judy, Forefather Dragon Lizard, Gay, Dracula, and Meiji to guard different locations where there might be not enough defense. They had to use their different powers to strengthen the defense. To prevent Desolate's interruption, she was more cautious than ever. She didn't look at ease as when she faced Yuan Zhu. Han Tian's group trusted her competence. No one offended her assignment. All acted as they were told. They immediately dashed away to different areas as she assigned them to use their energy to guide the natural forces and strengthen the barrier. After a while, Ziya turned to Shi Yan and hissed, "You can start now." Chapter 1580, Soul Attack. Chapter 1580, Soul Attack. Billions of 5-colored flames moved with their own consciousness outside the Grace mainland. The Grace mainland was now a massive burning globe that was pulled out of the holy land of the Cloud Tribe. The warriors around could see it clearly. Many warriors from different clans were watching the event from very far away. Still, they could feel the heat and the changing of their territory. The weather in Cloud Mist territory was a little cool like the perpetual autumn. It never felt as hot as a normal summer here. At this moment, as the massive fireball was hung up, the temperature of the entire territory rose. The warriors living in this territory felt like they were living on a sunny day. They used their soul to sense and then float up in the sky to observe. They saw a massive fireball float up from the Cloud Tribe's holy land. It continuously radiated dazzling light and scorching heat. It naturally attracted many experts. Right after that, they saw the 7-colored divine light cover the entire Cloud Mist territory. The area was blooming beautifully and brilliantly. They recognized that this territory changed greatly. Many people proactively gathered by Minghao and Xianhe. They wanted to know what was going on over there. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Billions of magnificent lights shot out from Ziyao's graceful body and zoomed everywhere. Those bands of light locked the entire sky as if they were an extremely large net in the sky. No warrior or creature could intrude this area. As Grace Mainland was still rising, the flames burned more fiercely. Shi Yan let his soul alter emergency, both of his souls gazing at the continent. Break! Shi Yan's host's soul sent a thought that connected to his absolute beginning body and created a giant cross saber. That sharp saber then dashed toward Grace Mainland. Crack! 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 Grace mainland crackled fiercely. The giant fireball was torn apart, and it released immense, thick energy. However, at this moment, Shi Yan's co-soul suddenly flew up and turned into a jet of light that entered the big crack on the continent to reach its nucleus. Shi Yan's soul altar returned to his head. The savage absolute beginning body suddenly had furious and intimidating energy. His muscles bulged like mountains. Suns, moons, and stars moved in his eyes and energy gathered on his hands. It looked like he was holding a brilliant galaxy in his hands with so many twinkling stars. The mysterious, complicated starlight fell on the burning globe right after that. Boom, boom, boom. Waves of energy rippled. Shi Yan's giant absolute beginning body grew bigger. He was now even more terrifying than the suns or moons. His colossal body suddenly lay down deep in the sea of clouds. His hands gestured and guided so many galaxies. The starlight materialized into chains and shackled Grace mainland, pulling it toward his chest. The onlookers then pulled themselves together to watch the event, their faces in disbelief. Many low-realm, shallow warriors couldn't help but scream. Grace mainland was now on Shi Yan's chest like a fire rubber ball. Compared to his body, it was so small that Shi Yan could hold it. It looked like he was holding a burning ball, which was really incredible to the eyes. While the others were watching him in fear, Shi Yan used both hands to clutch that burning planet. The surging energy in his body was like a flood breaking the dam that frantically gushed into the center of the planet. Although the continent was burning, the water in the endless sea didn't evaporate. From an extinct volcano in the heavenly monster mountain range, the Origin's magical energy emerged. Shi Yan's co-soul flew and got in there to enter the deepest location of the planet to explore the place contained the Origin. The core of Grace mainland was a wonderful land with dazzling starlight and thick earth and heaven energy. This place had so many mountains connected to each other as if they didn't have an end. That long mountain range suddenly began to move unknowingly. At first glance, it was like a dragon lying on the ground. At this moment, the dragon was wiggling frighteningly. That unceasing mountain range became lively like a living creature or a part of a giant creature that was still dormant. Because of the massive change on the surface of the planet and the heavenly flame stimulation, this body part awakened. It began to twist as its instinct was to unite with the body. It was like the case of Ziyao snakes. No matter how long they slept or wherever they were, when they woke up, their instinct was to guide them back to Ziyao, the master. It was a basic instinct that no one could erase. At this moment, the mountain range twisted and wiggled, trying to escape this area to unite with the host body. Swish! All of a sudden, Shi Yan's co-soul appeared. He watched the extremely long mountain range and released the energy of the Origin. This sort of energy made Desolate's part feel familiar. The wiggling part slowly calmed down. At the same time, by the barriers of cloud mist territory, earth-destroying energy barged in. The angry roar from the dawn of this world crossed the borderless spaces to hit on that space barrier. Boom! Hero of the Whitebone clan had cast a metal sea right there after gathering the metal energy from the 3 adjacent planets. He had created a barrier outside the territory wall. At this moment, as his barrier was impacted, a massive flow of energy from the wild beast violently hit the barrier and sent Hero away. Hero's bone body was as beautiful as crystal, flawless white gems. However, after that attack, his magnificent jade-like body had so many hairline cracks. He discolored in fear and watched the metal sea bewildered. He was horror-struck indeed. He got it. Right at this moment, Ziyao screamed as if she was facing her arch-enemy. Billions of light bands shot from her body and turned into beautiful cotton clouds covering Hero. Rivers of divine lights flew towards and supported Hero to deal with Desolate's attack. All the experts gathered in Cloud Mist territory, including Mondesi, Han Tian, Judy, Dragon Lizard, Meiji, and Gay Discolored, their faces extremely stern. They saw the cracks on Hero's body. Among the 7 clans, the Whitebone clan had a tenacious body that was actually extreme. It was the closest to the absolute beginning body. Hero was at second sky of territory ancestor realm, but his body was cracked after just a hit. How intimidating and fierce was it? We're so many spaces away, and he doesn't know space power Upanishad. I'm sure he can't appear here with his body. However, he can track down the coordinates of his soul clones. He can use his soul power, soul consciousness, and God power to barge into the territory space barrier. He won't allow Shi Yan to melt his body. He'll attack us furiously. Get yourself together. We must try our best to defend, screamed Ziyao. Billions of rainbow bands shot out from her eyes and reached where Hero was protecting to mend it. Rumble. Rumble. Another wave of brutal impact shelled on that barrier and deformed it like when a hammer pounded on a rubber ball. Without the divine light energy strengthening and mending the barrier, that territory barrier was going to break shortly, which would allow Desolate's soul consciousness and soul energy to enter Cloud Mist territory and kill Shi Yan. Ziyao turned into a jet of divine light and tried her best to protect that section of the barrier. She released so many bands of divine lights to resist Desolate's power. As Han Tian and the others saw the situation, they hurried to go there and help Ziyao. Ziyao yelled hastily, "Protect your spots. Do not leave your positions." He's using dark energy to attack. He can aim at any section of the territory barrier. Take care of your section. Do not come here. Her voice woke them up. They didn't dare to leave their spots, but gathered their god power and released their best abilities to create and strengthen their barriers. Hero getting hit hard made them not look down on Desolate anymore. Although his body wasn't here, he had used his soul power to attack Hero. Hero's body almost exploded. Desolate's competence was beyond Yuanzu. Thump! Thump! Forefather Dragon Lizard's heart beat frantically. He drove the lava from a volcano underneath. Sending his soul consciousness to the lava, he made it a burning barrier to improve his section of the barrier. From his ancestor lizard's memories, he knew about Desolate's power vaguely. He didn't dare to relax anyway. He had accumulated all energy to resist Desolate's impact. All of a sudden, his body shook hard. He looked at the space barrier by him and felt like he was watching a strange sea with many power Upanishads moving around. It was a sea with so many jets of light weaving with each other. If Shi Yan was here, he would have known that it was the fountainhead of power Upanishads. He had to use the heaven flames as the key to enter a long time ago. At this moment, that fountainhead of power Upanishads appeared in the void and attracted Forefather Dragon Lizard. Forefather Dragon's consciousness became blurry as his soul was about to be sucked and attracted to that fountainhead to search the ultimate features of power Upanishads. Don't get in there. However, at this moment, Audrey's cold voice arose, which was like a sharp sword that thrusted into Forefather Dragon Lizard's head. He felt a twinge in his nerves that made him sober instantly. He was frightened as he knew that his soul was intruded. He had almost destroyed himself. Boom, boom, boom. 3 horrible impacts came from the space barrier. 3 flows of furious energy broke the lava barrier. Although they were subsided getting through the burning barrier, they still made their way to hit Dragon Lizard. Just like Hero, Forefather Dragon Lizard was like a rubber ball kicked far away. He rolled toward the deep clouds and bled terribly. Chapter 1581. The Consciousness Arrives. Chapter 1581. The Consciousness Arrives. _thump. Thump. 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 Loud explosions came from deep in the sky and suppressed all creatures in Cloud Mist territory as they thought that their skies were about to fall. By the barriers of Cloud Mist territory, Hero, Han Tian, and Montesi were trying their best to resist the attack, their countenances solemn. Han Tian raised his hand and grabbed something. The earth core flames from the continent underneath turned into massive fire dragons. He got them in his hands and placed them on the space barriers. So many fire dragons emitted scorching energy to increase the power of the space barrier. As the barrier was attacked continuously, Han Tian's soul altar had to spin fast to counter. He became a man of fire. Flames covered his body with thick smokes. He sat in the middle of a sea of fire and used the fire waves to resist the impacts on the barrier. Montesi and Meiji weren't far from each other. At this moment, Montesi had already appeared like a little girl. She had built a time barrier and tried to stagnate time. Once the barrier broke, it would recover shortly as time reversed. It was how she stabilized this area. Hero, Judy, Gay, and Dracula scattered and protected the other sections of the space barrier. They had cast different barriers to protect the territory barrier here. They understood clearly that once the territory barrier was torn, Cloud Mist territory would become defenseless, which would allow Desolate's power and soul consciousness to seep into the territory. Xiao had to work a lot. She became a source of light as billions of colorful light bands radiated from her graceful body and created a mysterious, brilliant net that tied the void and confined the barriers in the sky. Once a section got cracked from an attack, she would come and use her god power to mend it. Minghao, Xianhe, and the others gathered in another area. They lifted their heads to watch Shi Yan using his absolute beginning body. At this moment, he was a giant holding Grace mainland with both hands to send his energy into it. As they were observing him, they all looked seriously earnest. As their realms weren't high enough, they couldn't help Shi Yan. Moreover, since they came from desolate territory, their souls had Desolate's imprint. If they came there, Desolate could have a chance to possess their body using his consciousness. The experts of the mysterious Sky Clan, White Bone Clan, Phantom Clan, and Xiao were cooperating in sealing the entire sky to resist Desolate's soul attack. After so many waves of attack, the barrier that looked as if it could break soon hadn't exploded yet. Apparently, Han Tian and the others couldn't relax. They all sweated and paled. Some of their bodies began to shrivel as they had used a lot of energy and some even got hurt. Shi Yan in his absolute beginning body was holding the flaming continent in his hands. Suns, moons, and stars were moving in his eyes as he was pouring thick energy into the continent. Slowly, the heaven flames covering the continent became streams of fire that entered the core of the continent. Shortly after, all the flames on the continent disappeared. A powerful wave of original energy shot out from the inside of Grace mainland. In this world, flames fell from the sky and congregated underneath Shi Yan's co-soul. At this moment, Shi Yan's co-soul had something hovering above his head while he stepped on the sea of original flames. His eyes projected a body part like a mountain range. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. So many flames gathered and created a massive hand with soul consciousness. Shi Yan's soul appeared in that hand when it grabbed Desolate's body part. The world in this continent collapsed like a shattering mirror. Twisted lights shot everywhere. Boom, boom, boom. Earth-destroying energy waves gushed from Grace mainland. Instantly, terrifying earthquakes occurred on the entire Grace mainland. Mountains caved in. Rivers and seas disappeared into the earth. The thick earth and heaven energy materialized into ivory smokes and mist. From every corner of the continent, wisps of energy seeped into the ground and reached that collapsing subterranean world. Xianhe, Minghao, and the others felt the great changes of the world. They were horror-struck when they observed Grace mainland. Strangely, that large continent was shrinking little by little. It was like a deflating balloon that slowly withered and reduced in its size. Grace mainland was disappearing. From this point, Shi Yan's refining progress officially started. He used his soul energy and vitality to shroud the entire continent to refine Desolate's body part inside. Even though they were too far away from each other, Desolate could feel that the refining process had begun. The impacts on Cloud Mist territory's territory barriers became more furious. Explosions reverberated in the sky and made many low-realm warriors collapse. Many of them bled and some of their souls perished directly. Forefather Dragon Lizard, Hero, Gay, and many people got hurt. Blood trickled the corners of their mouths. They all looked exhausted. They were filled with fear. They could never have imagined that Desolate would use Shi Yan as the precise coordinates to send his soul energy from almost an endless distance. He had attacked them heavily, though. They could imagine that when Desolate came with his real body, he could level the entire Cloud Mist territory shortly. They finally understood that Desolate, the god of war in absolute beginning era, was actually invincible in his era. Yuan Ziya was nothing compared to him, though. Yuan Zu needed a lot of time to cultivate to reach such terrifying pressure that made even the souls shiver. Are you okay? Audrey looked at Forefather Dragon Lizard in his real form with so many wounds. She couldn't help but scream when he bled terribly from his body. Forefather Dragon Lizard was in his true form and rolling in the burning lava. He spurted furious flood of energy to the barrier, and his barrier section had become vividly red with his dry and scorching power. However, whenever his red barrier received a hit, his body had more open wounds. "I'm okay. I can resist for a while." So terrifying. Forefather Dragon Lizard panted and shouted while his giant body rolled around in the lava to let his blood merge with lava. He didn't fall, anyway. "Get out here!" Ziyao's shout came from a deep place in the void. A purple emerged from her head and ballooned into a brilliant world. Her 12-headed snake body came from that world of divine light. Shortly after, the 12-headed snake parted into 12 individual snakes and swam towards different sections of Cloud Mist territory. All the experts and mortals of Cloud Mist territory could see 12 seven-colored snakes moving in the sky. The snakes looked like dragons that were tens of thousands of miles long. They parted the sea of clouds and then disappeared. At the same time, a divine aura bloomed in the sky with billions of rainbow bands and created a magnificent scene. This scene was carved deep in their souls, and they were never going to forget it. Ziya showed her real body. The bodies of the 12 snakes came to strengthen the sections of barriers that were about to collapse. Seeing Ziya urge her complete power, the others riskily urged their powers and their best supernatural abilities. For the time being, many experts of Cloud Mist territory could feel the earth-shaking auras hovering in the skies. It seemed like all the peerless existences in this vast sea of stars had come and fought in their Cloud Mist territory. During this time, Grace Mainland was refined. At this moment, Shi Yan had shrunk it and made it 1/3 of its original size. Almost done," Audrey mumbled. She clutched the hem of her clothes, her face anxious and restless. Sizzle, sizzle. Jets of starlight came from the barrier near her. All of a sudden, a shooting light thrust into her head from her left. Audrey's eyes went dimmer, her face blank. This strange condition lasted for a few seconds. After several seconds, Audrey pulled a cold face, her entire body emitting a gloomy and sinister aura. She stepped towards Forefather Dragon Lizard where the blazing lava was burning. Deep in her eyes was a coldness as if she had become a complete stranger. The soul-refining cauldron she got from Neptune flew up. The absolute beginning symbols wiggled while so many ghosts and departed souls crazily attacked Forefather Dragon Lizard. Forefather Dragon Lizard was concentrating on the barrier with all of his might. He wasn't vigilant at all. When he could react, so many ghosts had already intruded his body through the open wounds. A flow of chilled-to-bone energy expanded and filled Forefather Dragon Lizard's body instantly. He crouched and roared in agony. In the void, Ziya immediately noticed this area. After first glance, Ziya was shaken hard, her face changed drastically. She turned into a jet of light and zoomed over. "I've underestimated you." Audrey used to have the origin of God-blessed mainland. Although her origin was extracted, she still had its aura. To Desolate, it wasn't easy to cross spaces and occupy anybody. However, Audrey was an exception. No matter how hard Audrey had changed, she couldn't erase the Origin's aura completely. Following that familiar aura, Desolate's consciousness seeped into her body magically and seized the control of Audrey's soul. It possessed her easily. At this moment, Audrey became part of Desolate. He had occupied her body, soul altar, and power. How many years has it been? We finally meet. You still make people sick of you. Seeing Ziya, Desolate in Audrey's body sneered, "In our time, if you and Devour hadn't hindered me, I would have broken the absolute beginning gateway without the key. You messed up everything. Let alone opening the absolute beginning gateway, you even dismembered me and put me in a coma." Chapter 1582. The Territory Shatters. Chapter 1582. The Territory Shatters. A wisp of Desolate soul had occupied Audrey's body to come to this territory. Ziya had to face her archenemy. Shortly, Forefather Dragon Lizard recognized the wrong situation. He used his soul to call for Monesi, Hero, and Han Tian to help. Xiao was startled when she saw Forefather Dragon Lizard move. She immediately stopped him. Don't leave your positions. His soul energy can pierce through any section to get here. Secure your spots. Xiao's shout awakened people. While watching this area, they continued to pump their energy into their barriers to secure the section they were defending. After Desolate's soul got into Audrey's body, Audrey's cold face twisted and became vague. From Audrey's body as the source of power, Desolate looked at Shi Yan in the distance. He opened his mouth to say something as if he was sleep-talking. Absolute beginning seals flashed and arrayed by his body instantly like spirits portraying an ancient absolute beginning formation. Not far from him, Shi Yan in his absolute beginning body was holding Grace Mainland and trying to refine it. All of a sudden, the Co-Soul, which was actually the Grace Mainland's origin, sent him fierce vibes. The connection between Shi Yan's Co-Soul and Host's soul was cut off instantly. Grace Mainland flew out of his hand and turned into a blinding light, zooming towards Desolate. Do you think that you can refine my soul clone and body clone that easily? Too innocent. Desolate smirked coldly. Brutal souls emitted from him. The territory soul that Audrey got from the Soul Clan, hidden in the soul refining cauldron, had turned into a jet of black light and entered her soul altar. Swish! Swish! Clear noises arose from Audrey's soul altar. That territory soul was refined shortly and turned into a little soul pond situated in Audrey's sea of consciousness, which looked like the world of departed souls. Shortly after, Audrey's realm increased, her god power ancient tree thriving. You're worth the soul form that my clone chose. What an extraordinary innate talent. She even has a divine weapon. Excellent. Desolate nodded indifferently. The soul-refining cauldron suddenly emerged and hovered in the void. The crying and wailing of billions of souls resounded. Only I can use the real power of this absolute beginning divine weapon. He turned to Xiao and asked calmly, "Don't you agree?" Xiao felt a cold current churn in her heart. She thought that it was just a wisp of desolate soul, so it couldn't raise a storm in cloud mist territory. But now, she understood that whenever and wherever, she should never underestimate the absolute beginning god of war. Audrey had only Immortal Realm and she was far away from Territory Ancestor Realm. If Desolate occupied her body, he could at most use the power of the peak of Immortal Realm only. As Desolate was limited by Audrey's realm and power, he couldn't really threaten Xiao. That's what Xiao had assumed. But now, Xiao knew she was wrong. With the Territory Soul from the Soul Clan, Audrey planned to use it to advance to Territory Ancestor Realm after she reached Third Sky of Immortal Realm. She hadn't used it because she knew that her time hadn't come yet. In fact, Audrey hadn't reached the level to refine the Territory Soul. However, when Desolate took her soul, she changed. At this moment, as Desolate controlled her soul altar, with his realm and superb knowledge, it was effortless to refine a Territory Soul. Shortly after, that Territory Soul had merged with Audrey's soul altar and turned into a soul pond. After absorbing the Territory Soul, Audrey's power had reached a brand new level. Moreover, Audrey had the soul-refining cauldron, which was an absolute beginning divine weapon containing so many brutal sounds. Audrey wasn't able to use the real power of this cauldron. But Desolate could. As Desolate was talking, billions of souls flew out of the soul-refining cauldron. Desolate controlled them and made hundreds of netherworld dragons. Those netherworld dragons were pit black with scale armor and green eyes. Their entire bodies were filled with cold, energy. They screamed, howled, and attacked Xiao. Each of the monstrous netherworld dragons was made of millions of brutal souls and ghosts. Their evilest auras magically merged into one column. This soul suppression covered the entire world and made Xiao discolor in fear. Bands of divine lights in the sky moved like a rapid waterfall and fell from the 9 tiers of the sky. The heavenly snakes spurted divine, rainbow lights, and destroyed the monstrous netherworld dragon. Well, it's not good that there are so few brutal souls in this cauldron. If it gets a sacred absolute beginning soul, the soul-refining cauldron will increase 1 level, said Desolate. He didn't look at Ziyao, but Grace Mainland, which was flying towards him. He said indifferently, "My soul clone and body part can merge with this little girl too. Afterward, she will have decent power to fight you, Hui." Grace Mainland turned into a dazzling jet of light and shot towards Audrey. Shi Yan was bewildered for a few seconds and then roared terrifyingly. In his roaring, Shi Yan's eyes turned crimson like blood as he urged his power Upanishad to the acme. Swoosh! Swoosh! The black holes emerged in the sky of cloud mist territory. Each of them was several hundred mu large with evil, brutal energy. Shortly after, the devouring black holes merged with each other and became a horribly large black hole that could swallow the world. It lowered above Audrey's head. The ultimate devouring power emitted from the black hole and hovered above Audrey. Audrey's soul altar was forcefully sucked out and emerged above her head. Her host's soul in her soul altar, a world of souls, suddenly transformed into the cold and harsh appearance of Ghost Hunter, which was the human clone he used to have. He lay on Audrey's soul altar, but that soul altar was too dark to see what it contained. Looking at the black hole spinning frantically above his head, his face was cold and calm. Devour used his devouring power Upanishad to fight me, but he couldn't swallow me. Do you think you can? Unfortunately, to deal with me, he had impart part of his power Upanishad to Bloodthirsty, which made Bloodthirsty's intimidation. That power Upanishad is now with you. You and him, unless you two merge into one, your devouring power Upanishad and the 8 evil power Upanishads can't do anything to me. While Desolate was talking, Grace Mainland was about to merge with his wisp of a soul. The energy fluctuated from his body, and so many absolute beginning seals in the sky were irresistible to Grace Mainland. Grace Mainland and the soul in there were his parts. While he was dormant, his soul clone and body could have their own consciousness. However, as he had recovered, the power of his soul clone in Shi Yan's body couldn't suppress his soul energy anymore. Stars fall. The beautiful Skyfall Star River emerged and became a band of a brilliant galaxy. Following Shi Yan's order, the stars in the sky fell torrentially like gems. They all aimed at Desolate's soul wisp. Skyfall Star River? Desolate smirked. I killed its previous owner. How can it attack me? Rumble. 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 Furious energy attacks bombarded the territory barriers 10 times stronger. Forefather Dragon Lizard couldn't endure it anymore and fell from the sky with so many wounds. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, the section he was guarding exploded. Flood of energy deluged torrentially and created a world-towering ancient tree. That tree seemed to be able to connect to earth and heaven. The tree had pierced through the territory barrier up there. Billions of branches jutted lushly. So many branches and leaves with thick vitality attacked the planets in cloud mist territory rapidly. Explosions reverberated everywhere. The cloud mist territory's skies were torn apart as lights bloomed and spaces exploded. This territory was about to shatter from here. The towering ancient tree thrived massively. The roots of the tree dangled and reached Desolate's soul. The life soul tree. It was the massive ancient tree Shi Yan used to see on Desolate Continent. That tree was rooted deep into Desolate with so many branches and leaves. This tree was actually the most famous divine weapon of Absolute Beginning era. As soon as this Absolute Beginning divine weapons emerged, the entire cloud mist territory began to shatter. The territory barriers fractured like a smashed mirror. The creatures living in cloud mist territory were about to be exposed. Desolate's tiny wisp of soul swelled rapidly as his energy rocketed. The soul energy like a vast sea entered Audrey's soul altar. Shortly after, half of Desolate's soul energy had crossed spaces to get here. As soon as Ziyao saw the wrong situation, she didn't have time and efforts to care about living beings in cloud mist territory anymore. Her 12 separated heavenly snakes gathered into one body. At this moment, she sat neatly on the crystal throne above the host snake's head. Her body looked like she was made of 7-colored divine lights. Each second, millions of rainbow bands bloomed from her. Han Tian, Hero, and Montesi discolored in fear. From what Ziyao had told them, they understood that Desolate was an invincible expert. However, when they finally saw his deeds, they knew that they had underestimated this god of war. He had just sent a wisp of a soul to Audrey's body, and he could be that fierce. If his real body came, who could resist him in this vast universe? Moreover, they understood that Desolate wasn't his strongest self at this moment. Only after merging all the soul clones and body parts, Desolate would become the absolute beginning god of war at his peak condition. Thus, in this era, what existence could subdue him? They were correct. In this era, no one wanted to see Devour get all of his parts back together. Devour hiding in Devouring Clan's holy land didn't want it. Sauron, who was watching the absolute beginning gateway, was another one. Desolate had crossed so many spaces. Wherever his soul glided through, he had shaken the entire world. Sauron, who had always kept an eye on the commotions of the Sea of Stars, immediately knew what Desolate wanted to do. He couldn't help but join this battle. After Devour had slaughtered Empty Land and the Sea of Annihilation, he recovered greatly. Almost at the same time, he had urged his power to stop Desolate's last fusion, just like what Sauron was doing. Chapter 1583, Shi Yan Mends the Sky. Chapter 1583, Shi Yan Mends the Sky. Underscore. In this borderless universe, the characters that Desolate had to consider could be counted on one's fingers, and Sauron and Devour were those sort of characters. As Desolate knew how strong Sauron and Devour were, they understood Desolate's intimidation as well. Once Desolate had completely united his soul clones and parts, he would become too fierce. No one would like to see Desolate fully recovered, as it would be the biggest calamity ever for the other creatures. Moreover, Desolate would become invincible again. Sauron and Devour had to take action. By the sea domain of Nihility, numerous stars and territories were melting like a glacier, falling into the sea domain of Nihility and becoming a part of it. At this moment, in a remote area of the sea domain of Nihility, a light flashed and swelled up with thick soul energy that could pierce through layers of shackling space to run directly to another end of the world. The space could restrict the bodies, but it couldn't do anything to the pure soul energy or the divine weapons that had fused with soul energy. This place was Desolate territory, Desolate's own kingdom. The soul energy was emitted from there, heading toward another location in the sea domain of Nihility, gushing into cloud mist territory. The invisible soul energy had crossed space, connecting to Desolate in the cloud mist territory to give him his power. At the same time, another flow of soul energy pierced through the forbidden land of the Devouring Clan deep in the sea domain of Nihility. It changed and condensed into a black grain of rice quietly, slowly changing again and releasing 8 bone islands. As soon as they emerged, a pungent smell permeated the place, and a terrifying aura hit the bright light. Instantaneously. Boom, boom. The swelling light bloomed, emitting an earth-destroying scream. Almost at the same time, another flow of soul energy came from the endless abyss, congregating into a vague figure with a dazzling roulette in his hand. His 2 hands moved as if he was deforming the power of fate. So many illusions flew out of the roulette, heading toward the light. A dragon roar echoed like that of a shattering sky from that light, as soul energy being transmitted from that light was interrupted. Numerous wisps of energy deviated from the original routes, becoming uncontrollable. The black grain became a black cave while the 8 bone islands above the Blood Sea were revolving around Desolate territory. The 8 evil power Upanishads emitted from the islands, seeping into Desolate territory. Devour and Sauron had taken action at the same time tacitly, even though they didn't speak a word to each other. They were joining hands to subdue Desolate's real body inside Desolate territory, cutting off the soul energy he had emitted. Grrrr. A frantic, shaking roar expanded from Desolate territory as a massive, savage dragon head emerged in the void, roaring angrily at the black hole and Sauron's illusion. Waves of soul energy rippled like seawater, sweeping around the space. The 8 white bone islands shook and retreated when the energy waves hit them, while Sauron's vague figure was swept away like a leaf in a storm. Although he was moving, the roulette in his hands was still dazzling. More and more currents of images with the magical energy that could distort fate blended into waves of soul energy. Sauron and Devour had crossed space, using their pure soul energy in the soul pond to come here and attack, so that they could control Desolate's body and main soul. At this moment, a part of Desolate's soul was in Cloud Mist territory to face Shi Yan and the other experts and vie for the soul clone and body Shi Yan had taken. Right when everything was smooth enough, Sauron and Devour ambushed him. They had learned from him to use the soul energy to attack the other part of his soul. The threat from Sauron and Devour made him agitated, but he couldn't give up his soul clone. The strongest creatures in this world didn't want to see him recover fully. As soon as they recognized his commotion, they couldn't help but attack him together, which had interrupted his plan. "I will kill you sooner or later." Desolate's angry bellow resonated endlessly. Skies fell and earth cracked wherever his sound waves had passed. The entire universe was shaken unceasingly. Cloud Mist territory where the territory barrier shattered. Zia sat neatly above the main snake's head, making hand seals. The 12 heads spurted magical lights like flows of meteors or beautiful rainbow bands, creating a magical bridge to tie down Desolate's life soul tree. Meanwhile, Han Tian, Hero, Montesi, and the others were urging their power and territories to the maximum level to attack the life soul tree. Starlight twirled around Shi Yan's absolute beginning body. He held the Skyfall Star River, roaring savagely as he wanted to use the Sea of Stars to cover that life soul tree. The part of Desolate in Audrey's soul altar changed his power, causing monstrous netherworld dragons to rumble around. Wherever they went, they polluted Han Tian and the others' energy, which prevented them from using their power. The wisp of Desolate's soul here had used the life soul tree and Audrey's soul refining cauldron to resist the powerful experts of the Cloud Mist territory, and hence could resist them somehow. Space slash. Shi Yan shrieked crazily as his chest tore apart and his blood gushed to guide the energy from the chaotic space basin. The piercing space energy turned into transparent jets of electricity, which then gathered into a massive saber that could slash even a whole territory, dashing away from his chest. Swish! As the saber slashed across the sky, the Cloud Mist territory's void was cut like a piece of tofu. The territory was halved, divided by a river of space light which connected to a place of eternal isolation. Crack! 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 The fierce, massive saber could slash the entire territory, but it sounded like a blunt weapon smashing on a rock when it hit the life soul tree. The tree wasn't broken, only having to bear a big cut. Right after that, the saber exploded in the vivid sky. The flow of immense vitality mended the cut instantly, leaving no scar or mark. But it wasn't that the saber had done things in vain. Everybody could see that the moment the saber exploded, Desolate's soul twisted and became a little blurrier. "Keep hacking it with your space saber." Ziyao's voice came from the clouds above his head. Together with her scream came the 12 rolling rainbows that acted like 12 sharp, 10,000 meters long swords stabbing on the life soul tree. Facing that onslaught, the life soul tree shook a little, which cheered Shi Yan up. While bellowing, he urged his god power one more time, neglecting his threatened life as he condensed the dark energy to create another space slash. Boom! All of a sudden, the Cloud Mist territory's territory barrier collapsed as it couldn't stand the space division. Gusts of cold winds, twisted power of the turbulent space basin, and furious solar explosions suddenly barged into the territory. Along with that came numerous flows of asteroids with beautiful sparks, falling into the planets inside the Cloud Mist territory. Warriors and ordinary humans living in the Cloud Mist territory looked at the skies, knowing that the doomsday was arriving. Seeing the skies fall and the earth crack, they seemed to see their lives being snatched away. Everybody would fall into an endless void, becoming a part of the quiet but eternal world. Sauron! Sauron! Devour! Desolate screeched while hovering above Audrey's soul altar as if he was already crazy at the moment the Cloud Mist territory shattered. The Grace mainland he was about to retrieve had escaped from his control in just a blink of an eye. The connection between Shi Yan and the Grace mainland twisted by Desolate was reconnected. Shi Yan didn't know what had happened to Desolate, but he wouldn't let this chance slip away. At the split second the connection was re-established, he paused his space energy to focus on deploying his best efforts to guide and pull the Grace mainland back to his chest. No! No! Desolate bellowed angrily. It seemed like he couldn't control his energy, or he had something more important to do as his life soul tree and the soul in Audrey's soul altar suddenly turned into streams of energy, which then retreated into the void outside the territory. They pierced through the shattered territory barrier, zooming to an unknown area deep in the universe even faster than when they came. People lifted their heads to look at the sky, their faces puzzled. They didn't know why this brute had left at the critical moment without a known reason. Shi Yan! Lock the space and mend the territory barrier. DeCarlo screamed from a continent underneath, his face aghast. The ear-splitting scream made people realize about the catastrophe of their territory. Seeing the stormy gusts arrive, they urged their powers proactively to help Shi Yan resist the terrifying natural disasters that were enough to destroy the cloud mist territory entirely. Seeing the dangerous situation, Shi Yan didn't dare to hesitate. The space prism in his soul altar flew out while space halos expanded from it like crystal chains that acted like skillful hands, using the space energy to mend the shattered territory barriers. Receiving his energy, the broken barriers were mended, grouped, and glued to each other by the space energy, becoming intact as new. Only the experts with space power Upanishad at Shi Yan's level could restore shattered territory barriers. Ziyao, Han Tian, and the others tried to block off the deadly natural wonders and broke them in the void instead of letting them fall onto the continents underneath. At this moment, the Grace mainland was placed on Shi Yan's chest like a massive throbbing heart. Slowly, it shrank as Shi Yan's co-soul inside was releasing the energy to refine it little by little. As Shi Yan was using his space energy to mend the skies, starlight moved in his eyes. He eyed the Grace mainland and opened his mouth to suck it. The planet was guided by jets of starlight as it was sucked into Shi Yan's mouth like a chestnut, disappearing in front of everyone's stunned gazes. He had just swallowed the Grace mainland. Sauronâ and Devour. Did they take action? Ziyao looked through the territory barriers into the dark void, sinking in her thoughts. Should be them. Only the existences at their level can force Desolate to retrieve his soul to the body. Seems like no one in this world wants to see Desolate recover fully. Chapter 1584. Increase sharply. Chapter 1584. Increase sharply. The broken territory barrier was mended by Shi Yan's space power Upanishad little by little. After he had swallowed the Grace mainland, it didn't send forth any energy fluctuation. When the wrath of heaven descended, the experts had somehow stopped it, saving the desperate warriors and mortals. Swoosh! 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 Audrey's body turned into a jet of gloomy light, landing from the sky. After Desolate's soul retreated, Audrey's host's soul was still sealed. She couldn't control the soul altar to use the power Upanishad or control her mind to urge the god power. 3 divine lights of purple, cyan, and orange-red color came from 3 different corners, covering her body like ribbons and guiding her to Ziyao. The latter's bright eyes radiated dazzling divine lights as she concentrated on her while hissing, "She hasn't awakened yet." 3 ribbons tying Audrey had turned into 3 snakes, entering her body fast and making her shiver in the void. Just like someone in a coma awakened by an electric shock, Audrey woke up with a start. She was shaken, her cold face reflecting a deep fear as she screamed hoarsely. Underneath them, Minghao, Adele, and the members of the Imperial Dark Tribe were worried. They had floated up as they wanted to wake Audrey up. However, they didn't do anything when they saw Ziyao take action. Hearing her screaming, Minghao and Adele hurried to come and check her, their faces stern. Han Tian, Hero, and Monesi looked as if they had to face another enemy, gathering by Audrey with heavy faces. Desolate had used her soul to get here. She was his medium. If she's still here, is it true that Desolate could arrive through the territory barrier any time? Hero's eyes were as sharp as a cold sword. He looked at Audrey, not trying to conceal his intentions. To cut off the potential danger, the best way is to destroy her soul, which will prevent Desolate from channeling through her. Hero didn't have human emotions and only talked logic. If he thought it was right, he would discuss directly without beating the bush. Hearing him, Minghao, Adele, and many members of the Imperial Dark Tribe became cold and hostile. A dark light flashed in their eyes as they were trying to restrain their wrath. Unexpectedly, Han Tian, Montesi, Gay, and Judy nodded in agreement with him. If we want to ensure the Cloud Mist territory's safety and Shi Yan's life, killing this girl is a wise move, said Judy, while Han Tian and the others nodded inwardly. The terrifying intimidation of Desolate had frightened them deeply. Even though Han Tian, Montesi, and Hero were experts at the level of the 10 Great Territory Ancestors, when they faced Desolate, they had felt a deep, powerless feeling. And it was just a wisp of Desolate soul in Audrey's body. If Desolate came personally, how could they resist this brute? No one had that confidence. They all knew that Audrey used to have a soul clone of Desolate, so her soul had his aura, which had facilitated his consciousness to arrive here. As long as Audrey was here, Desolate could use a wisp of his soul to occupy her body, just like he had done this time. This meant that the disaster would always loom over their shoulders. They were too scared to face Desolate again. Mingha turned to face Hero's team, his face terrifyingly sinister. He gritted his teeth but didn't say anything, waiting for Ziyao's decision. At the same time, a wisp of his soul consciousness had condensed and approached Shi Yan in the distance. Once they came to a negative decision for Audrey, he would report to Shi Yan immediately. He wouldn't care even if he was at his critical moment. He had to force Shi Yan to protect Audrey. You're worried too much. Ziyao looked at Audrey, watching her slowly wake up. She then smiled and said, even if Desolate wants to use her soul to come here, it won't be easy for him because she has reached the Territory Ancestor realm. Actually, Desolate's possession is an extreme encounter she will never have again in her life. Everybody was puzzled and surprised as they all turned to look at Audrey, including Minghao, Adele, and the members of the Imperial Dark Tribe. The netherworld dragons that hadn't vanished flew toward her from a far distance, the dark, evil, and cold auras swarming over. Minghao's team also felt chilled as if they were suddenly sent deep inside the netherworld. The netherworld dragons curled around Audrey for several rounds and then got into the soul-refining cauldron above her head. Immediately, the soul-refining cauldron acquired many earthworm symbols. Billions of brutal souls emerged on the cauldron's surface for a moment as the massive cauldron slowly revolved and lowered, eventually entering her head. At this moment, Audrey's eyes were closed. However, as soon as the cauldron went inside her head, she opened her eyes. Her eyes glowed with a gloomy light as if she had the ghostly flames moving in them. The aura from her body also chilled people to the core. Desolate's soul had occupied her soul altar, but her host's soul knows everything that had happened. She knows how Desolate used her power Upanishads, especially that soul-refining cauldron. She's like a very lucky apprentice whom her superb grandmaster had taught directly. The experience she gained from that battle is so incredible for her powers and the soul-refining cauldron that we can't actually estimate. Ziyao smiled and continued while everyone was still bewildered. More importantly, she got a territory soul, but she couldn't refine it. But now, Desolate's soul has guided the energy and refined it, creating a soul pond in her sea of consciousness. In other words, she has leaped to the Territory Ancestor realm directly from her immortal realm. Without Desolate's intrusion this time, she would have needed thousands of years to have this breakthrough. However, it cost her only 15 minutes. Audrey's eyes turned as bright as the cold moon all of a sudden, and everybody turned to her with a stunned face. They then inwardly cheered and praised her lucky encounter. Minghao, Adele, and the Imperial Dark Tribe warriors were so thrilled that they almost screamed. Desolate could possess her easily because her realm wasn't high enough, and her understanding of power Upanishad was shallow. But now, she has reached the Territory Ancestor realm and knows how to use the soul-refining cauldron. If Desolate wants to use her again, he will have to make a lot of efforts. Ziyao pressed her lips together. In that case, with Shi Yan's sensitivity to Desolate, he'll able to detect that early. Perhaps he can seize the chance to attack Desolate hard. I think as Desolate has failed this time, he won't use his soul to come again recklessly. Next time, he would come with his real body. Ziya said many things just to let people know that Audrey wasn't a threat to Shi Yan and wouldn't become a medium for Desolate to arrive here at any time. She was an absolute beginning creature, and she was the strongest expert in the Cloud Mist territory. No one doubted her presumption, and no one had other thoughts toward Audrey anymore. Minghao and Adele were at ease when they saw the others' relieved countenances. They weren't vigilant anymore. "Thank you." Audrey hesitated for a while and then bowed to Ziyao unnaturally. "You little girl." Ziyao smiled casually, sending her a soul message. "I won't interfere with you and Shi Yan if you have something in destiny. What you have in your mind, you should do it and try to prove it. I won't stand in your way, so you don't need to be hostile toward me." Thank you." Audrey was surprised. She stooped and regarded the other, her face a little cheered up. "We should talk about Shi Yan." This time, his luck was really big. Since Desolate's too powerful, Sauronâ and Devour had seized the chance to take action, hindering Desolate from completing his union. It's good for Shi Yan, anyway. He may be able to refine Desolate's body, making it part of his absolute beginning body. Ziya smiled. Han Tian and the others looked shocked. They then turned to see Shi Yan, who was standing in the middle of the void. At this moment, Shi Yan was in his absolute beginning body, seeming like a majestic mountain piercing into the clouds. He was urging the space energy to mend the territory barriers. The acupuncture points in his body were shining with starlight. At first glance, they were like big and bright stars with dazzling halos. At Han Tian and Hero's level, the experts could sense each of those acupuncture points as a large, mysterious world. If the 720 acupuncture points had become new worlds themselves, would it be real that Shi Yan's body had become a universe such that he could keep even a territory within his body? Thump, thump, thump. Explosions arose from Shi Yan's heart like mountain crackling. Amidst the tremors, his acupuncture points released a thick and immense vitality. An infinite flow of vitality was rising in his acupuncture points, blood, organs, and bones. He suddenly parted his lips, shouting at the void. Unexpectedly, his massive body began to grow further. The natural armor plates appeared on his chest, arms, legs, and even under his armpits like dragon scales. The strange but sharp spikes grew like wild weeds on his shoulders and elbows. The bone wings that didn't show up when he transformed into his absolute beginning body finally jutted out from his back while crackling. The bone wings spread, shadowing the world like demon wings. The endless evil auras from the 8 evil powers were now divided into 2 parts, pouring into each of his wings. Seeing the unfolding bone wings, people shivered instinctively as if they had just seen the birth of a demogorgon. Boom, boom. 2 dragon horns jutted from his head, piercing through the sky. The vitality in the dragon horns was extremely thick, also carrying the sharp space energy. It seemed they could break everything, including the world. Shi Yan's absolute beginning body was transforming and growing once again. Everybody was frightened as they didn't know whether the situation was good or bad, unable to help but turn toward Ziyao. Ziyao's eyes were filled with bright colors. As the others were gazing at her, she said, "In the absolute beginning era, Desolate had hunted many of his kind, absorbing the absolute beginning blood to increase his power. He's the strongest among the absolute beginning creatures, with the biggest amount of absolute beginning blood. His body part has helped Shi Yan transform one more time. This time, Shi Yan's body strength would be doubled." Chapter 1585, Sauronâ's Invitation. Chapter 1585, Sauronâ's Invitation. Deep in the misty sea of the Cloud Mist territory, Shi Yan was in his absolute beginning body, hovering imposingly in the middle of the starry sky. His aura was earth-shaking and overbearing, able to make the entire world tremble. He felt so wonderful. The Grace mainland was melting in his body, giving him torrential currents of energy that reached every corner of his frame, organs, and blood. However, more importantly, it filled his god power ancient tree. His blood was boiling when so many images of memory, conceptions, and knowledge of power Upanishads flooded him from the strange energy that he had absorbed into his blood. They all glided into his head, disappearing in his soul and power Upanishads. It was the memory from Desolate's blood inside the Grace mainland. In the Absolute Beginning era, Desolate, the god of war, had hunted down many of his own kind to take the Absolute Beginning blood in the other's body to transform and evolve his own. During that time, Desolate was the nightmare of every Absolute Beginning creature. He had killed so many, including the master of the Skyfall River Star, an expert cultivating the star power Upanishad. Also, he had killed a lot of creatures cultivating the space and life power Upanishads. The understanding of power Upanishads, power, and a lifetime of experiences of those experts were carved deep in the Absolute Beginning blood that Desolate kept in his body. This part of Desolate's body had the memory of those power Upanishads' understanding and comprehension. Images and pieces of memory arose from the Absolute Beginning blood, entering Shi Yan's head and staying with his soul and power Upanishads. It was a complete harvest. As his body was taking in the Grace mainland, his soul altar was filtering the useful memory, knowledge, and images as if he was peeling off a cocoon. At this moment, Shi Yan had become a precise machine that digested all the nutrition to make him grow faster and stronger. The space barriers of the cloud mist territory were fixed. Ziyao hid her true body and sat on the purple crystal throne, hovering by Shi Yan. Han Tian, Hero, and Montesi didn't leave either, gathered by Shi Yan and ready for any incident. They didn't know whether Desolate would come again or not. Thus, they had to prepare well. No one wanted to see another disaster. And it was a long wait after which Shi Yan's Absolute Beginning body slowly shrank. As he was digesting the energy, he transfigured back to his human form. Everybody was stunned during all this time, waiting for him in silence. He could seize this chance to reach the third sky of Territory Ancestor Realm, Ziyao said quietly, her eyes brightening. That year, Desolate had killed so many experts and merged their knowledge of power Upanishads into the Absolute Beginning blood. We can say that the Absolute Beginning blood is the essence of both body and memory. Since Desolate didn't cultivate the devouring power Upanishad, he had condensed the knowledge and memory of the others into Absolute Beginning blood. That's how he had strengthened himself. Seeing people being curious, Ziyao beamed faintly. Shi Yan got his body part, so he will have a chance to comprehend the memory and understandings of power Upanishads of the Absolute Beginning creatures that Desolate had killed, and have his own experiences. The energy from Desolate's body is enormous and pure, and can help him reach the upper limit of his god power accumulation. Everybody was watching Shi Yan, who wasn't different from a normal human at this moment. He sat still in the void, his eyes closed. Just like that, 10 years went by quickly. Anyhow, the experts had never left the Cloud Mist territory even once. They just used the Soundstone to contact their clans and give their commands or receive the intelligence. Wars happened in every territory. Although the 7 clans had finished their great war, the wars between the smaller clans had become more intense day by day. They fought in the sea domain of Nihility, in the Great Territories, and in many areas for their face, for seizing lands and cultivating materials. The wars never ceased. The members of the Black Demon Clan, Ancient Monster Clan, and the Soul Clan had disappeared mysteriously. They hadn't shown up in the Sea of Stars yet, and no one knew where they were hiding. The Devouring Clan had defended their territory well, and they didn't join the Great War. Because of Edgar and Devour, the other races didn't dare to offend the Devouring Clan, trying to stay as far away from them as possible. At the same time, Yuan Zhu had gone missing. He didn't raise any winds, just staying quiet. The fierce battle between Sauron, Devour, and Desolate couldn't solve anything. Desolate hadn't come to Cloud Mist territory another time, and no one knew if he was chasing after Sauron or Devour in his wrath. As a result, the Cloud Mist territory stayed silent for a long time. The heavenly rock continent created by Shi Yan's power now had so many experts on it. Xian He and Frederick had witnessed the great war between Desolate and Hui, as well as Han Tian and Hero's power. they had learned from the others' experiences. Within 10 years, their realms had advanced fast, almost reaching the territory ancestor realm. The Heavenly Rock continent had gathered many experts from the desolate territory. Through the properties they had plundered from the Soul Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan, those warriors who cultivated here had advanced quickly. Gradually, they became a powerful force that could compete with the 7 great clans. Montesi often visited the Cloud Mist territory to teach Shi Yan the Time Power Upanishad. She had given her a lot of precious and rare materials, including the fantasy mirrors she had refined, to cultivate with. As a result, Shi Yan had her realm leaped up fast. She was at the immortal realm, but still a distance away from the territory ancestor realm. Emperor Sea Shark had the water original symbol, and he had also received many treasures with water attributes to advance his power. After 10 years, because of rich accumulation, he had entered the second sky of territory ancestor realm. On the other side, Audrey had the soul refining cauldron, and she had reached the territory ancestor realm in a bizarre fashion. As a result, she had become the matriarch of the Imperial Dark Tribe. She had taught them the mysterious techniques and power Upanishads, causing her fellows to have their realms skyrocket quickly. Sauron has invited us several times to go to the Absolute Beginning Gateway. Days ago, he came to me. Montesi told Ziyao the latest news. We've got Sauron's invitation, too, said Han Tian and Hero. Before the entire Sea of Stars was shaken, Sauron had contacted Hero, Han Tian, and Montesi, asking them to go to the Absolute Beginning Gateway. Because of Shi Yan's mad slaughter in the Soul Clan, Devouring Clan, Black Demon Clan, and Ancient Monster Clan that had stirred up the entire universe, many clans had had their riots. As a result, they had to put the Absolute Beginning Gateway thing aside. Currently, the 7 clans had ceased to fight, and the territory ancestors hid away or cultivated in peace. Hence, Sauron invited them again. Seems like he has escaped Desolate's hunt. Zia laughed oddly when she heard that. 10 years ago, if he and Devour hadn't taken action timely, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to resist Desolate, and Shi Yan couldn't have gotten the Grace mainland. I guess Desolate had counterattacked Sauron and Devour in his wrath after he had retrieved the wisp of soul he sent here. During the recent 10 years, Sauron and Devour haven't made any moves. Surely, Desolate has been troubling them greatly. But if Sauron has sent his invitation again, I think he has ditched Desolate. Zia put on a surprised face, smiling. I'm curious as to what Sauron did to calm down Desolate. How much do you know about this person? She turned to Han Tian's team. Han Tian, Hero, and Montesi exchanged looks and then shook their heads. Afterward, Montesi said, he has existed for a long, long time ago. No one knows how old he is. Rumors say that after the Absolute Beginning era ended, he has always been there. He's the oldest creature of this era. How about you? What do you know about him? Ziyao asked Dracula. Dracula was the expert from the previous generation of the Whitebone clan. He had lived longer than Han Tian and the others, and he had befriended Sauron for a long time. That's why Ziyao asked him. When I was born, Sauron was already famous. He's the great sage, the planner of many great things. For example, in my time, the Empty Land and the Sea of Annihilation didn't exist. At that time, the two said areas were the places forbidden to creatures. Sauron had invited many experts to explore and exploit the Empty Land and the Sea of Annihilation. Yeah, saying like this, Sauron has explored many magical places in the sea domain of nihility. That's how we got many places to go to now. Dracula frowned while continuing. At that time, people were guessing that Sauron wanted to find something or achieve something through his exploration of the Sea of Annihilation and Empty Land. But we were just skeptical and didn't have any proof. Anyway, I think he has something he wants to achieve. Otherwise, he wouldn't take many experts to explore everywhere and open up the new world like that. Hearing him, the listeners looked stunned. Han Tian didn't know that the wonderful places like the Empty Land and the Sea of Annihilation used to be hidden and were open to the world now because of Sauron. So, could that Absolute Beginning Gateway be another Sea of Annihilation? Is that a place Sauron wants to explore? asked Han Tian skeptically. Everything he has ever done is just for one purpose. He wants to open the absolute beginning gateway. Ziyao looked at the crowd, her face glowing beautifully. Including the chaos of the Sea of Stars, the fall of territories, and the racial genocide, he has plotted them all. Everything is because of the absolute beginning gateway. People didn't get it immediately. Why is that? Dracula was astounded, asking for everybody else. 10 years ago, when Shi Yan hadn't refined Desolate's body part, I had entered the endless abyss to check the absolute beginning gateway. Magnificent lights radiated from Ziyao's eyes. The absolute beginning gateway was strange at that time. During our era, it had never changed a bit. But now, the changes are obvious. It should be because of the changes of the universe and because of Sauron's plans. But even after hearing that, the people still didn't get it. Ziyao didn't want to share more details, so she spoke indifferently. When you get to the endless abyss, you will see yourself. As for Sauron's invitation, you can just ignore it. As Shi Yan and I are here, we can get to the endless abyss anytime to see that absolute beginning gateway. We don't need to go with the others. Then, she snorted. If Shi Yan doesn't go, even if they've guarded the absolute beginning gateway for billions of years, it's just in vain. Sauron has invited you guys several times, but actually, he doesn't want to invite you guys. He needs Shi Yan. Chapter 1586, 10,000 Bodies. Chapter 1586, 10,000 Bodies. _ At that moment, Shi Yan opened his eyes. Ziyao, Han Tian, Montesi, and Hero were right in front of him, as they had never left him too far. They all had been staying in the cloud mist territory. He sensed for a while, and then chuckled as he found the sky wasn't endless, and the territory barriers were nothing to him. His laughter caught people's attention. You have woken up finally, Meiji exhaled in relief. How long has it been? Shi Yan asked with a smile. Since Desolate left, it's been 13 years, answered Meiji. Oh, so it's not really long, Shi Yan nodded while stars twinkled deep in his eyes. It looked like he had two vast galaxies in his eyes, making him seem mysterious and profound. How are you? Ziyao gave a faint smile. Look at you. You've broken through smoothly, right? Your souls, are they fused with each other yet? Shi Yan squinted. The energy in Desolate's body part was incredible. It was much more immense and powerful than he had estimated. With Desolate's body part, his absolutely beginning body had ameliorated by more than twice. The memory, power, Upanishad comprehension, and lifetime's experiences in the absolutely beginning blood had blended with his soul altar, advancing him to the next realm. However, his co-soul hadn't fused completely with his host soul, and it was out of his expectation. He thought that at the moment he entered the third sky of Territory Ancestor Realm, the two souls would blend with each other. But clearly, he was wrong. I got something interesting, but the two souls haven't fused yet. It's all right. I gained enough. While smiling, Shi Yan looked at the others, his eyes scanning through them and making them puzzled. After a while, he said, warriors at the first sky of Territory Ancestor Realm aren't strong enough. You shouldn't go to the endless abyss. You guys at the second sky can consider whether you want to go there or not. Hearing him, everybody had their eyes brightened. However, the warriors like Meiji and Gei screamed in disagreement. Why can't we go there? Gei hissed while Meiji also looked at him as she didn't understand his point. He wants you to live well, Ziyao frowned, her face cold. Let alone you reaching only the first sky of Territory Ancestor Realm. Even if you've broken through to the second sky, it'll still be very dangerous, with significant probability of meeting death. Skeletons have piled up in front of the absolute beginning gateway. In my time, so many marvelous warriors had fallen there. I don't think Sauron, Devourer, and Yuanzhu would bring the fellows at the first sky of Territory Ancestor Realm with them, said Shi Yan indifferently. You won't take me with you? Meiji asked while looking at him. Shaking his head, Shi Yan sighed, if you go with us, you will trouble Montesi and me. I'm not sure we can cover you well at that time. Hearing that, Meiji didn't say anything more. We don't need to mind Sauron. Shi Yan pitched his voice, his eyes raking through the crowd. 5 years. I'm giving you guys 5 years to arrange your stuff and your clan's matters, or you can do whatever you want and not be regretful later. After 5 years, we will gather on the Heavenly Rock continent and go to the absolute beginning gateway together. Life or death, it will be the will of God then. Okay. Han Tian, Hero, and Montesi agreed. Without talking more, Shi Yan opened the territory entrance to get to the Heavenly Rock continent. With that, the experts from different clans left for their clans through the Heavenly Rock continent. Meiji left in rage after shouting, "I can break through to the second sky of Territory Ancestor Realm in 5 years." Shi Yan saw her off with a smile. Soon, only the warriors who had escaped from desolate territory were left on the Heavenly Rock continent. Ming Hao, Xian He, Frederick, and Emperor Sea Shark scattered around the continent. They cultivated ascetically or taught the power Upanishad's principles to their fellows. Sizzle. Sizzle. Shi Yan's palm cracked and ruby-like drops of blood floated from the cut, filled with a thick energy. They swelled up strangely, turning into many clones of Shi Yan. Those Shi Yan looked exactly like him, and as they were created from his blood, they had his soul seal as well. They were the real clones of Shi Yan himself. As Ziao was watching them, those Shi Yan smiled and flew toward different areas of the Heavenly Rock continent and the Cloud Mist territory. They went to the Yang family to find Xia Xin Yan, the 4 women of Qing Ting Dong's group, to drink with Jia Ji and Bao Ao, or to find Feng Rao and Sheng Yingyu. Shi Yan's clones left his real body to find his family and friends, his lovers and comrades. Meanwhile, his real body stayed in the desert forbidden area on the Heavenly Rock continent, facing Ziyao. You want to use these 5 years course to make up for the events you've regretted and enjoy the pleasures and joys of human life? Ziyao beamed at him. Shi Yan nodded. To make up for the regretful things is also a way to cultivate, a process to feel the humanity. I've just reached a new realm. I need new experiences and make new memories. Ziyao frowned, pondering for a while. You're scared. You're afraid that you can't come back once you go to the absolute beginning gateway. Did you have some bad premonition? Shi Yan forced a smile. I'm scared, all right. Not only me, everybody's afraid. Han Tian, Hero, Montesi, who won't be scared? You're scared, too, because God knows what is behind that gateway. It could be the end of the world. Who knows? Ziyao became quiet. Shi Yan closed his eyes and talked nothing more. Although his body was still there, his soul consciousness had left him to stay with his friends and family. He was traveling around to make up for the beautiful moments he had missed as he had to chase and walk on the path of strengthening himself. He had to meet some people to compensate for their wait. It was a normal land in the Cloud Mist territory, and Muyudai had already recovered her beautiful appearance. She was wearing a green dress, cultivating alone in a forest similar to the dark forest. She was sitting inside the bamboo room she had built herself, playing strings, her heart serene. At that moment, a man walked through the forest amidst her sweet melody. Muyudai lifted her head as she heard the rattling footsteps, dumbstruck when she saw the man coming. On another land of the Cloud Mist territory, Feng Ko and Feng Rao were inside a mountain. Watching the misty clouds far away, Feng Ko said, "The past is over. He's not someone we can reach anymore. The distance between you and him is like the vast gap between heaven and earth. Perhaps he has forgotten you." Feng Rao was bewildered, talking indifferently. He's just busy. Busy? Feng Ko sighed inwardly and talked nothing else. He used to say that he had me in his heart, muttered Feng Rao. At that moment, a man landed from the sky, sitting on the mountain right next to Feng Rao all of a sudden and without any prior signal. Feng Rao was startled as she turned to look at the man, tears lingering in her eyes. Feng Ko was bewildered, but he soon bowed respectfully and then left silently. Come drink with me." In another city, Shi Yan was holding a bottle, drinking with Bao Ao and Jia Jia. They talked about a lot of things without worrying about death and life. They just wanted to drink and have fun with their friends at that moment. His figure appeared by his friends, feasting and talking with them. Shi Yan ended up doing many things to make up what he had missed and regretted. Similarly, after Han Tian, Hero, and Montesi returned to their clans, They documented their knowledge of the power Upanishads, choosing talented apprentices to teach and arranging many matters of their clans. All were to prepare for the future. Time flew fast, and 5 years went by shortly. After these 5 years, in the same desert on Heavenly Rock Continent, Shi Yan's real body had a lot of sand covering it, which made him look like an old sculpture. Ziyao hadn't moved either, having meditated for 5 years in front of him. Sand stuck on her as well, and she didn't have her usual glamour. At that moment, a few silhouettes appeared from the dark void. They were Han Tian, Hero, Montesi, Dracula, Judy, and Emperor Sea Shark. They walked toward Shi Yan as they had arranged, having finished their business in their clans. At this moment, they didn't have anything anchoring their hearts, and no worries about their death or life. They didn't talk much. After they arrived, they just sat down, waiting in silence. Meanwhile, many Shi Yans flew toward from the Heavenly Rock Continent or the Cloud Mist territory. Under the stunned gaze of everyone, they merged into the host body. After a while, Shi Yan opened his bright eyes. He shook off the sand on his body while grinning, then spoke to Ziyao. "We should depart." Ziyao batted her eyelashes, getting up with a smile. The crystal rainbows twirled around her body, causing the dust and sand to disappear. She nodded, her face bright. "We should go." A lava river came from the void, which then turned into Forefather Dragon's shape as he laughed cheerily. "I got good fortune then. Take me with you." "Ha ha ha." "Oh!" Han Tian's eyes brightened as he complimented him. "Can't believe you could break through that fast. It's amazing." Forefather Dragon Lizard came, bowing to Ziyao respectfully. Thank you. Thank you for letting me know where my ancestor used to cultivate. Otherwise, I couldn't have had a fast breakthrough." Ziyao nodded. "Where's Meiji? Did she break through, too?" Shi Yan asked Montesi. "I don't know." Montesi shook her head. "She didn't return to the clan with me, ditching me halfway. I heard that she stayed on the seabed of the Sea of Annihilation. She killed Ricardo, but I don't know if she made another breakthrough. If her realm has increased, I think she will come. Ricardo's realm wasn't low. If she killed Ricardo, I think she has broken through." Shi Yan closed his eyes, searching. After a while, he opened his eyes, smiling strangely. "She's on her way here." Haha, she did break through. Everybody was quite surprised on hearing that. When Meiji first knew Shi Yan, she was upset while looking for a way to obtain the dark energy. At that time, the territory ancestor realm was unreachable to her. How long had it been? Now, Meiji had reached the second sky of territory ancestor realm and could stand shoulder to shoulder with Montesi, Hero, and Han Tian. People couldn't help but look at Shi Yan, their eyes strange. They understood that Meiji could have what she got today because of Shi Yan. Otherwise, with her personal competence, she would need thousands of years just to accumulate the energy. Not only Shi Yan was a miracle himself, but he could also create miracles for others around him. Chapter 1587. Arrive at the Abyss. Chapter 1587. Arrive at the Abyss. The endless abyss. A rainbow-like band of light zoomed over from the void, reaching the thick sea of clouds. Many people were riding that rainbow. When it landed, they emerged one after another. They were Shi Yan, Han Tian, Ziyao, and the others. The endless abyss was icy cold and dead silent, without the aura of living creatures. Deep in the gray void were the fiery rocks that rained down furiously, falling into so many dark abysses. After arriving there, they all released their soul consciousness. However, all they sensed was a blank space with no end in their range of perception. This place was the bottom of the universe. Rumors had that it was an area that forbade creatures because it was the place of spirits, shattered stars, and vanishing territories. The present people pulled themselves together and observed, indeed finding many planets falling and territories cracking like bursting rubber balls, all falling into those abysses. So, this place is the Endless Abyss? A place that forbids creatures from entering. Meiji was the last one who arrived. She frowned as rays of light were shooting from her eyes like cold electricity. I don't see anything special here. Shi Yan stood in the middle of the crowd, stepping on a five-colored auspicious cloud. He squinted as he was using his soul consciousness to explore. He suddenly had a strange but magical feeling he couldn't explain. He felt he had been here a long, long time ago. This feeling puzzled him, as it was somehow unimaginable. Thus, he didn't tell anybody and just stayed skeptical himself. Nobody's here. As Sauron's invited us several times and how urgent he was, I think he should be guarding this place. Montesi wore a pure white dress, her little figure as cute as a little angel. She circled the area, and when she got back to her starting point, she had an awkward face. Han Tian and Hero were also perplexed. Before they came, they had thought that they would bump into Sauron or Yuanzu's team. Hence, they had prepared for an instant fight. Those fellows are right here, but they are hiding well, I assume. Zio said with a calm face, we don't need to mind them. Even if they are here, they won't disturb us. They will facilitate us anyway until Shi Yan uses the power Upanishad symbol tower to open the absolute beginning gateway, which is when they will show up. Hearing that, everybody understood the situation. The power Upanishad symbol tower Shi Yan got was an important factor, and indeed the key, to open the absolute beginning gateway. To Sauron, Devourer, and Yuanzu, Shi Yan was the main element who must get to the absolute beginning gateway and open it. After that, they could carry out their plans. Everybody who desired to enter the absolute beginning gateway needed Shi Yan to open it. Thus, before he did anything and before the absolute beginning gateway opened, even if they were in the endless abyss, they would try their best to hide and restrain themselves. They must smoothen the way for Shi Yan. Everything was to open the absolute beginning gateway. So, before the absolute beginning gateway opens, we don't need to worry about anything? Han Tian guffawed. He quieted down immediately, relaxing his stiff neck. Then, we will fight them after we get through the absolute beginning gateway. We can relax for now. He's right, we don't need to be cautious now. Don't make your nerves so tense. Shi Yan looked in a direction while talking to Ziyao. Over there, is it? Right. Ziyao had strange lights in her eyes as she was quite surprised. You can feel it? Not me. Shi Yan shook his head. As the others were amazed, he pointed at his head. It's the power Upanishad symbol tower. It vaguely shows me the way. As soon as we got here, it began to wiggle as if it wanted to run away from my head. It's a little agitated. Ziyao's eyes brightened as she hissed, Sauron does have some abilities. If you say so, it's true that the absolute beginning gateway is about to open. Otherwise, your power Upanishad symbol tower wouldn't act strangely. Pausing slightly, she pulled a solemn face while lowering her voice. Then, we shouldn't ponder anymore. Let's go to the absolute beginning gateway first. Then, she stepped on the rainbow, heading toward the direction Shi Yan had shown. The rainbow glided above many mysterious and deep abysses without a pause, connecting them and creating a magnificent scene. People exchanged looks as they calmly followed the rainbow, sliding above the mysterious dark abysses. Numerous planets were falling above their heads like a fiery rain. As the warriors had used their power to create the shields, the fiery rains exploded, sending up so many radiant sparks. Forefather Dragon Lizard, Meiji and Emperor Sea Shark had to slow down under the rain of broken planets. Meiji's beautiful face was now heavy, sweat beading her smooth forehead. Cold mist hovered around her, freezing her protection halo. However, her halo was thinned out under the continuous attacks. It looked fragile, as if it could be broken at any second. At this moment, she finally knew why Shi Yan didn't want to bring her here. He was just looking out for her. If she were still at the first sky of Territory Ancestor Realm, she couldn't have resisted the fiery rain from the void. She would drain her god power soon, which would expose her body. The flaming shooting pieces would then bombard her body into a dough. Your competence does not seem enough. Shi Yan turned around and halted. As he released his energy, the fiery rain above Meiji sizzled inside the vortexes he had released. After several seconds, the fiery stars congregate into 7 crystalline, bright stars that were as big as mountains. Instantly, Shi Yan carved his soul consciousness on them, making them Meiji's guarding stars hovering around her body. As soon as the 7 stars were created, layers of magnificent starlight fell like a rain curtain, shrouding Meiji entirely. The fragments of broken planets that fell from the sky would avoid Meiji on their own. They didn't hit Meiji's halo anymore, so she didn't need to consume energy any longer. Meiji got rid of the danger, and her pale face regained colors as she didn't need to use her god power anymore. Her watery eyes contained passion as she glanced at Shi Yan. She didn't say thanks, but licked her succulent lips. Shi Yan burst out laughing, shaking his head. Don't think too much. Protect your spirit to recover fast. Meiji smiled while flying toward him as she swallowed some aromatic pellets. Got it. Well, only the beauties get the treats. Old shark and I won't have such treatment. We have to risk our lives to resist that mighty power. Forefather Dragon Lizard grinned, his laugher husky. As he was flying together with Emperor Sea Shark behind Meiji, they obviously had seen her difficult situation. They had joined hands to help her. However, right before they took action, they saw 7 stars hover above her head, shielding her from the natural attack. It wasn't long since Emperor Sea Shark and Forefather Dragon Lizard had reached the 2nd sky of Territory Ancestor Realm, so it was a little beyond their competence to endure the fiery rain. Sometimes, they had to dodge when a shattered territory was falling, which was why they were at the end of the group now. Montesi, Hero, and Han Tian had followed Xiao closely and had disappeared already. To those experts who had entered the 2nd sky of Territory Ancestor Realm for tens of thousands of years, destroying an entire territory was a simple task. Thus, they weren't troubled by the shooting flaming fragments. Moreover, as Shi Yan had their backs, they weren't really worried. You seek for trouble yourself. You shouldn't have visited this endless abyss. Of course, as you are here, you should expect dangers. Shi Yan smiled. Seeing Meiji approach, he didn't hurry to move as he waited for Forefather Dragon Lizard and Emperor Sea Shark and continued, Actually, you guys shouldn't have come. Even Han Tian, Hero, and the others aren't really confident, since we don't know what's behind the absolute beginning gateway. Only God knows if we can return alive. Well, we must vie for it, right? Emperor Sea Shark said calmly and coldly, in the absolute beginning era, even Desolate and Devour wanted to risk their lives for the absolute beginning gateway. In our era, Sauron has planned for tens of thousands of years. We can say for sure, something really magical is over there. So, if we have a chance to go there, why wouldn't we seize it? I want to reach my ancestors' realm to promote my bloodline. I need to go there. Forefather Dragon Lizard sounded serious, then suddenly sighed. It's hard to predict the future. When I met you on Dragon Lizard Star, you were at the incipient God realm. After hundreds of years, you have reached the 3rd sky of Territory Ancestor Realm. Although I've known you would have a bright future, I couldn't believe that you could reach this level. Right, Meiji smiled charmingly. I also knew him at your place. At that time, I wanted to kill him to get Desolate's soul clone. I didn't expect to obtain that terrifying result. While chasing after him, I was sinking. Shi Yan had urged his power to make the broken planets give them way as the 4 of them chatted along the way to the absolute beginning gateway. After a long time, Shi Yan received Ziyao's soul message and he said, We must hurry up. Ziyao's team has arrived already. They're worried if we got into any troubles. Hearing that, they stopped laughing and chatting. As Shi Yan poured more energy, they all accelerated. After a long time, they stopped by a massive abyss that looked like a spacious, cold, and dark lake. The outer layer of the abyss was like a mirror, with billions of absolute beginning symbols flashing and wiggling like a pool of tadpoles. In every second, they changed into a new formation. Everything was so absurd and mysterious. Ziyao's team was waiting for them right in front of the deep abyss. They all wore a stern face as they watched those absolute beginning symbols. As soon as Shi Yan arrived, he felt shaken as the Power Upanishad symbol tower flew out and hovered above his head uncontrollably. The Power Upanishad symbol tower abruptly shot radiant rays of light while all the windows on the tower sprang open. Countless absolute beginning symbols flew out of the tower like a cloud of spirits, heading toward the absolute beginning gateway. Everybody's eyes were brightened with magical lights, feeling excited after seeing the abyss. Chapter 1588. Open the Gate. Chapter 1588. Open the Gate. _ Another corner of the endless abyss. A jet of blinding light crossed the air and thrusted into one of the abysses. Just like a vortex or a revolving lake, a terrifying deranged fate power emerged. Swish! Sauron walked out of that abyss. He was wearing an old-style silver robe, his hair tied up into a bun. He looked calm and cold like a scholar with ease and natural poise. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and eyed the absolute beginning gateway in the distance, his eyes getting brighter. Shadows hovered from that abyss. They were Jinru, Candace, Fandalay, and some experts of other clans. All of them were at the territory ancestor realm. Those people had come to follow Sauron, betting their fate and the future of the clan on Sauron. Are they here yet? Jinru's eyes sparkled with cold light. She clenched her jaw. We've been waiting for so long. They should be here. Sauron's face was indifferent. Yeah. Shi Yan is heading to the absolute beginning gateway. They will get there shortly. Then what are we waiting for? Hissed Jinru. Sauron didn't care about her. He lifted his head to look at the void where a flow of light was falling. He released a wisp of soul consciousness. Then he smiled faintly. Let's go. A massive roulette emerged from that abyss, which was inlaid with gold, silver, iron, rock, gemstones, and diamonds. However, it was unknown what this roulette was made of as it was releasing bright gold halos. The roulette then enlarged until it was as big as an island with many lines crossing each other on the surface. However, those lines weren't still. They could move like human meridians or heavenly rivers. As soon as the roulette appeared, everybody felt insecure as if their futures were under someone's control, their fates tied. The roulette of fate. This was a divine weapon that didn't exist in the absolute beginning era. Sauron had forged it himself. Everything in this world, including the immense territories and living creatures, had a string of fate that could be connected and searched by the roulette of fate. As soon as the roulette of fate appeared, it hovered underneath Sauron. The roulette then took everybody and moved fiercely towards the absolute beginning gateway. Boom, boom, boom. As the fragmented planets and shattering territories fell from the sky and hit the roulette of fate, they became dust instantly and turned into pure energy before vanishing. Jinru, Candace, and Fandalay stood on the massive roulette, but they all felt a twinge in their souls as if they had a tense string in their souls that could break in any minute. They were all frightened as they looked at Sauron, their souls restlessly insecure. They suddenly recognized that as long as the roulette of fate confined their string of fate in their souls, once it was pulled broken, their souls would vanish instantly. Another corner. A black tunnel was created in the void. It twisted and changed into a swallowing black hole. Edgar, Rupert, Serene Prison, and Yuanzhu walked out from that black hole. Sharp lights radiated from their eyes, proving that their powers were increasing fast. Yuanzhu was in his human form. After getting out of the black hole, he gave it a complicated look and said, "Long time no see. I never thought that we would finally meet up again at the ending of an era." The black hole suddenly shrank into a black dot and exploded. A figure emerged with darkness shrouding him. This person was a black shadow, and no one could see his facial features or body. As soon as he appeared, the starlight around was extinguished. All the sources of light were swallowed. The entire world became darker. Edgar of the Devouring clan stood respectfully when he saw the black shadow as he was filled with fear. That was Devour, his clan's ancestor. The entire members of his Devouring Khan were born from this man's blood and soul. In desolate territory, Hui, and Desolate went dormant. At that time, Desolate was divided into 5 parts. If you had the guts to get in there, at your realm, you could have refined his body piece by piece. Perhaps there would have been no Desolate later. Devour looked at Yuanzhu. His voice was low and ghostly vague like crying souls, which wasn't pleasant to the ears. Unfortunately, you've always been a coward. You knew he was silenced in Desolate territory, but you didn't dare to intrude. Rupert and Serene Prison were surprised. When they looked at Yuanzhu, They wore odd faces. Yuanzu wasn't enraged because he knew how terrifying the shadow in front of him was. He knew that this man was the nightmare of all creatures in the absolute beginning era. If Desolate hadn't been more prominent than him, this man would have been the Demogorgon of that time. In absolute beginning era, when Devour had his supreme power, Yuanzu had to dodge him. As time went by, when Devour hadn't recovered fully, Yuanzu had accumulated for an entire era. That's why he dares to stand in front of Devour without being worried about turning into ashes instantly by the devouring power. Desolate territory is his territory. In his territory, he's the sole god and the only god that can make rules. Yuanzu forced a smile and didn't try to conceal his fear. Especially when I knew that you and Hui were nearby too. How could I take risks? Devour snorted. You'd been a coward for an entire era. How come you have the guts to come now? You didn't dare to go to the absolute beginning gateway to fight that year. Why do you dare to do it now? Yuanzu smiled calmly. Because you guys are weaker and I'm stronger now. Not much stronger than that year. Devour scrutinized him and spoke casually. Well, you're more cautious and sissy than you were that year. I hope you could stop Hui. I didn't expect you to offer more help. Yuanzu smiled and didn't try to quarrel. To his peers, he had always had good sense. Let's go to the absolute beginning gateway. That kid must have opened the absolute beginning gateway now. As the gate opened, his death is coming. I should retrieve that part of my devouring power Upanishad. Devour's voice was cold and harsh. Swallowing him, I will resume my supreme power. I will beat Desolate up. In front of the absolute beginning gateway, Shi Yan, Ziyao, Han Tian, Hero, and the others reunited. The absolute beginning gateway was also an abyss, the biggest one. The abyss had a surface like a black mirror where there were so many wiggling absolute beginning symbols. Within seconds, they could form thousands of complicated formations. However, no one could understand those mysterious formations. In absolute beginning era, the bloody, epic battle took place right here. Every time someone of my kind died, parts of those symbols moved. It seems like it requires so many deaths. Unfortunately, when we almost all died, it still remained closed. Ziya looked at the absolute beginning gateway and mumbled, as the sea of stars had great changes, race wars, shattered planets, collapsed territory. Everything is to open this gate. Sauron wasn't wrong. He has facilitated those symbols to revive them. Listening to her, people's initial doubts were cleared. The power Upanishad symbol tower was shining dazzlingly. Billions of symbols flew out and fell on that gate, connecting with the symbols down there. It seemed like they wanted to create some formation. Shi Yan didn't need to do anything. He just stood and watched the power Upanishad symbol tower do its job. At this moment, he had become an outsider. However, staying in this place, the familiar feeling he had became stronger. He felt that he saw this gate before, but as he tried to squeeze his memories, he didn't get anything. He didn't know that when his soul pierced through endless spaces to get to this world, he went through that gateway. However, at that time, he was in his soul form, which had left only vague pieces of his memories in his soul. As his soul was too fragile at that time, he couldn't remember anything. Boom! All of a sudden, the absolute beginning gateway burned furiously. So many absolute beginning symbols became fiery flames. At the same time, Shi Yan's host soul rolled in agony. Then, he turned into a lightning bolt and thrusted into the burning absolute beginning gateway. As people were watching, the absolute beginning gateway changed drastically into a massive flaming vortex, which had an extreme suction force. That suction force affected people's souls greatly. Shi Yan's body didn't listen to him and soared like a moth heading into a fire. Immediately, he stabbed through the eye of the fiery vortex. Move! Ziya screamed, her eyes brighter than ever. She followed close behind Shi Yan and entered the vortex's eye. Han Tian and Hero were hesitant. However, seeing Ziya depart, they immediately knew that the absolute beginning gateway had opened now. They didn't have time to contemplate and moved fast forward. Shortly after, the first group entered the vortex's eye one by one. From a closer look, that flaming vortex was created by countless absolute beginning symbols and powered by the power of the origins. The fiery vortex didn't cease after Shi Yan's team went through. Quite the contrary, it burned more furiously as if it would never extinguish. Boom, 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 boom. At the same time, extremely terrifying energy fluctuated from the abysses in this endless abyss. The energy even reached out toward the endless universe out there. Many areas of the sea domain of nihility collapsed continuously. More and more territories shattered for unknown reasons. Billions of creatures, including powerful experts from different clans, perished altogether in that moment. It begins. Sauron stood on the roulette of fate and mumbled. He accelerated the roulette. As the abysses were exploding, Devour and Yuanzhu brought Serene Prison and the others, moving fast. Devour and Yuanzhu were shaken continuously as the blood and flesh in their absolute beginning bodies boiled. Deep in the sky, a cyan lightning ball with immense vitality plunged all of a sudden. Vaguely, the cyan lightning ball contained the earth-towering life soul tree. That tree filled every corner of the lightning ball and released thick vitality. Desolate was also punctual. You're tuning into the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.